Hello, my fellow Westorians. It is Saturday. Did you know that? Well, now you do. And we are here to discuss the final episode of House of the Dragon Season 1, which we have not watched yet. Yes, there are leaks, but we have avoided that. The leaks did not get us wet. We stayed under...
I see.
Under our umbrellas. Yeah.
that was a choice. That was just quite a choice.
That was quite a choice, yes.
Okay.
Perhaps a choice I shouldn't have made, but I did it, and we must live with it.
And move past it.
Let's move past it. So we will be discussing what we think might happen. Some of you all out there probably already know. You've seen it already.
Yeah, and I have gotten only a tiny bit spoiled on this episode. I did see like a spoiler, so there will be a topic that we're going to talk about that I'll be like, keep me out of this one, I know. But otherwise, I've stayed unspoiled, thankfully.
So, yeah.
I also have like one tiny... I wonder if it's the same.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe y'all both got yeah. So, you've already heard her voice or seen her here now that we're talking. So, let's go ahead and introduce our guest for our final review episode. It's Kim Renfro of Cast of Kings. How you doing, Kim?
I'm doing pretty dang great on this Saturday. How are you?
We're doing great. You look like you're in a garden there. That's so cool. You have this fantastic background. Yeah.
Yeah. I picked out my wallpaper, got my flowers.
Yeah.
Settled in.
So last time you were on the show, we were talking about your fantastic book, The Unofficial Guide to Game of Thrones. Or unofficial, yeah. And now
it was the unofficial.
Yeah. And that was really fun. And your book was excellent. And I'm sure you're gathering many great details this time around as well that you are spreading to your audience over on Cast of Kings. How's it going having joined that long-running excellent show?
Yeah, it's been incredible. I really never would have guessed that opportunity would come my way, but David Chen reached out and it all just kind of like fell in place really perfectly. And it's been really fun. This is my first time like regularly podcasting about the show. I'm well versed in writing about it, but the talking bit is a whole different game. So it's been fun.
Yeah, how's that working out for you? It's like does it feel really different, or is it just kind of a slightly different, like a platform switch, or just different, same game, different venue?
Yeah, kind of same game. It's been a real test of my confidence.
Okay.
in like, oh, I already kind of know. Like, I don't have to do a ton of preparation because I'm already doing all the prep for my articles, and then like getting to talk to David about it is just like, it's like chatting with a friend, which I think is ideal. Yeah. So yeah, it's been cool, especially now, we've gone years without Con of Thrones or any of the other sort of places doing more about the show versus just writing about it. So yeah. It's been great.
Cool. Yeah, it's really good having a community again, just being able to do this all again. And we're lucky that the show is quite good. Not everyone loves it, but
truly
we do. And we're very happy that it's high quality. And that what can we say other than be very thankful that it exists and we all get to do this again. And we'll get to do it for several seasons and beyond. It sounds like that this is now our world. It's funny to think about after the end of season 8. That might have been it. That might have been the end of televised Game of Thrones. But the future looks pretty bright. How do you feel about the whole? What do we call it? The the Germverse, the Ice and Fireverse. I don't know what we call it.
Westeros cinematic WCU. Am I peeking?
Oh, yeah, 1 second. You're not peeking. It's just Aziz who muted.
Should I keep talking? Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking about
there you go. Now Aziz can hear you again. He had his headphone cord had been pulled out.
I really didn't know how this was going to go, right? Like, even in like July and early August, when people were asking me like, "Oh, are you excited about House of the Dragon?" I would be like, "I don't know. I'm trying not to. Trying not to have expectations. I'm like a little apprehensive, a little excited, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a really quality, exciting television program, or if it would feel redundant or if it would feel like season 8 all over again type of vibes. But I've been very pleasantly surprised by how much I'm enjoying it, and how, like, it's like you said, it's been nice to get this community back in a way that during the pandemic I was just very like,
yeah,
peace out everybody. I gotta like, you know, it's been a really hard few years. So having like this thing that feels good again to be like talking about and revisiting, yeah, it's been awesome.
House of the Phoenix. We're all rising again. Yeah. That's right.
Look at us. We can still do this and not fall apart.
That's right. So, folks, yeah, you can check out Kim on Cast of Kings. That's the best place to find her these days. Is there any other thing you want to shout out before we get deep into it here?
Just my usual articles on Insider too.
Yeah, of course.
That are kind of going in tandem with Cast of Kings.
Those are always super helpful to me specifically because you have some great interviews that you've done that I've cited before. Very good interviews.
Yeah, it's a good thing to add to your, if it's not already part of it, your routine of like how to take in what you just saw is to check out Kim Renfro's posts on Insider or articles on Insider. Really helps you catch things you missed, along with lots of other stuff. Good insight as well. So, folks, you can catch us, of course, if you're watching the stream on YouTube, you can keep doing that. If you want to catch the replay afterwards, that's also on YouTube or on Spotify. Podcast versions, anywhere you get podcasts, like Spotify or Amazon Music, Google Play, iTunes, of course, the original podcast host. No screeners existed for this episode. It's funny. This is the one episode that no one got a screener for, yet it's the most spoiled episode by far because of a leak, which at this point we still don't know how it leaked, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. Do you know?
I was going to say, I thought I saw that HBO gave comment to either Variety or Vanity Fair. I thought that they said that it looks like it came from international.
That's what happened in the first 2 episodes of the season, was that it was like the India, like the streamer that got it leaked or whatever. So yeah, it makes sense to me that happened again because it's leaked in full 1080. It's not like it's not like a cam or like a recording or a screen. It's a good quality version. So HBO Norway, someone read. So yeah, maybe
Norway.
Yeah, international. Those damn Norwegians.
I'm genuinely relieved that it doesn't seem to have been a press screener that leaked because, like, I'm like,
we wouldn't get them now.
Right. I'm like, I really hope that it's been so nice having screeners for House of the Dragon because we didn't for the last 3 seasons. Season 5.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Season 5 was the last time they gave press screeners out.
Okay.
Because all 4 of those leaked. They were on a physical DVD. So I'm like, I'm just like, there was a part of me that was relieved that it didn't seem to have come from a press leak.
Well,
because then we aren't at fault here.
So
keep giving us screeners, please.
It sounds like Norway's having all kinds of leaks. They just had like a pipes, their pipeline. leak, and now they're having, maybe that's what happened. It leaked out of the pipeline. That's what it was. Yeah. They shouldn't be shipping House of the Dragon through those conduits like that. That's really that's really on HBO, I think, at this point. So yeah, so that's kind of funky. Check if you all are watching. Ashay and I have somewhat matching shirts here. We went to see Me First and the Gimme Gimmes on Tuesday, and
I thought the shirts were very fitting given the subject matter in general of House of the Dragon. It really is a show that's about me first and the Gimme Gimme.
It's my throne. My throne.
Me first. Yeah.
I get the throne. Yes. So from last time, let's start with some last time stuff as we often do.
No, we didn't do the shout out I asked you to do.
Oh, my bad. You were totally right. We got distracted. Ashaya did something awesome this past few days. She created recreated the intro to Arrested Development using the Greens. Allison and Otto, and you know the Greens, Aegon, Aemond, and Helena, all of them. It's so good. It's only 18 seconds long, which is the length of the Arrested Development intro. We have now posted it to TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Ashay is posting the link in the description as well. Yeah.
So you can see it on YouTube, or you can, if you follow us on TikTok or Twitter or something, you can see it there too. And please give it a watch and a like, because I will be doing one for the Blacks as well, because it just seemed fair. Like, I was inspired to do it because of how dysfunctional the Greens are. They really gave me the Arrested Development vibe. But then I was like, I should do one for Rhaenyra too. So there'll be a second one coming.
It's so funny. Yeah. Check it out. It'll be worth it. I mean, it's 18 seconds. Of course it's going to be worth
please.
it. I mean.
If it's not worth 18 seconds of your time, then I really messed up.
I've watched it like 8 times at least, so yeah.
And only 4 of them were me making you watch it.
From last time, let's see. So one thing we talked about with Girls Gone Canon last week, prior to the episode, was whether or not they would have Orwyle kind of show whether we'd have Orwyle hesitating at all, because he wrote in Fire and Blood, he wrote that he did. He was like, oh, I was pushing for Rhaenyra, you know, like he was trying to act like he was. There was no sign of that whatsoever. Orwyle just went along. He's like, the only thing he really said the whole time was, maybe we should get this body out of here. And they're like, nah. So that's funny. So Orwyle, he's not going to be able to make that claim. If he starts talking later.
That's more than some of the other people did.
That's true.
Or I guess, like, if he does try to make that claim, we, the audience, now know that he's like full on bullshitting her.
Like, we saw you do nothing. And I guess we'll talk about it later, but it sounds like we are getting that embassy that Orwyle and Otto will be going to Dragonstone and trying to have a talk that doesn't look like it's going to go super well, but I wouldn't have thought it would. So
right, big episode 2.
Yeah,
rehashing.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll talk about that a little later.
20 years later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it has been 20 years too. Wow. Aemond and the brothel keeper. Did that give you Alice Rivers vibes there, Kim? When he was talking to that brothel keeper, she's much older than him, and that's apparently Alice Rivers is going to be much older than Aemond, like just like in Fire and Blood. So maybe that was a little.
I totally didn't pick that up, but I think that makes sense.
That's setting up big MILF vibes.
Big MILF vibes.
No, I tweeted about that, and someone was a little bothered that I was like, well, I wasn't saying I was in support of Aemond the 13-year-old sleeping with this woman. Like, no, I wasn't saying that. I was saying it's setting up. I'm excited about the setup for adult of age Aemond sleeping with a MILF.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. I do think I haven't gone back and rewatched. I think probably like today and tomorrow morning I'm going to go back and rewatch all first 9 episodes again. Nice. But like, as I'm thinking about it, there are so many tiny conversations and choices, like in the pilot episode with Harold Westerling being the one waiting for Rhaenyra when she gets back from her like very first dragon ride. I'm like, they really didn't waste a single character or scene placement. Like, all of these little things are having payoff by the end of the episodes, or for like little character development. So yeah, it tracks. Like, that brothel scene was like felt so deliberate that I'm like, this surely is going to connect to something in the future with these characters.
Yeah.
Like, that woman wasn't having such like a prominent little interaction there for no reason.
You're right. You can almost kind of feel like, without necessarily knowing what it's setting up, you're like, is this setup?
Yeah.
Wait, what is this setup for? Like, oh, and then you can kind of backdate it and be like, oh yeah. Like, yeah, that is.
You know, it's someone
was.
else pointed out something interesting. Well, when they replied to my tweet, I had tweeted, I said Aemond and MILFs is my favorite ship, and people replied, whatever, cool. But someone had a good reply that I actually hadn't thought about, which was like, I always took it as like, you know, Aemond has some mommy issues, like whatever, with Alicent, like that's where that comes from, perhaps. But they're like, well, no wonder he has like mommy issues, like when his first time was with like an older, like this situation. I'm like, damn, you really like made it a lot darker for me. The idea that like they're showing that like his first like formative sexual experience was with like this older woman, like that Aegon took him to, which is like this. Anyways, now I'm like, damn, I was really like having a fun time here, and now I'm like, damn, poor Aemond.
Yeah,
I feel
it's a
bad.
big deal, and that's actually a credit to the writers, the show in general, for that, because usually like there's a lot of like there's an endless host of like 80s movies where it's a joke, like a guy losing his virginity is just some like, yay, he did it, aha, woohoo, you know, like this thing to cheer. I mean, and some, you know, for some people that is what it is, but like it's not that for everyone, and it can be very formative. And,
and it wasn't that for Aemond. Aegon took him there thinking it would be,
wasn't
and
high-fiving.
But no, Aemond wasn't happy about that. Exactly.
And it maybe felt deliberate that like we saw Rhaenyra's first experience as a young teenager on the Street of Silk. Like, we saw the actual whole thing unfold and how like how that informed her approach to sex and sexuality with Damon. And instead they just told us that Aegon and Aemond had a similar thing, but we didn't get to see it. But like, you can kind of only imagine how that might have felt because we already saw Rhaenyra go through it as a young teenager.
That's a great point, because I can just picture that same picture little Leo Ashton Aemond, like just come, like I can picture it very clearly once I think about that Rhaenyra situation. Absolutely.
And Damon and Viserys talked about doing it too. So it's just like, well, I guess this Targaryen's in the Street of Silk. That's just there.
Yeah, it's like it's normalized for young men and demonized for young women, but that doesn't mean it doesn't potentially affect them in the same ways.
True.
It's just that we're not explicitly talking about it.
So that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So that scene definitely has a lot more going on than it may have first appeared. Now, Aegon eventually is going to fire Otto, presuming it goes similar to Fire and Blood. I should always with that caveat. Yeah. And it seems to happen pretty quickly. Like, if I remember correctly, he's upset at Otto writing lots of letters, which it's going to turn out Otto's letter writing actually does them a lot of good in terms of the war effort. But it's not happening fast enough for Aegon. So I wonder if Alicent is going to support him in this, or if it's even going to matter. Because Alicent's upset with Otto now. She really had it out with him last episode in a way that we've never seen. Like, she basically told him, no, we're not of one heart. You know, I feel like you manipulated me like a piece on the board, just like you did with Viserys. So I wonder if she's going to support getting rid of him, or at least not push back if her son takes the initiative there, like he does in Fire and Blood. Any thoughts on that, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that I'm curious to see how, like, in the same way that the episode 8 kind of like cliffhanger of the misunderstanding left me being like, okay, now I really want to see how Alicent handles this information, or like how that informs what I think is going to happen next, which is Alicent still trying to crown Aegon, but like for a totally different reason than we're kind of given in Fire and Blood, right? So now I'm like, what are they doing with her relationship with Otto? Like, is that truly severed, or is she going to, like, is what Rhaenys did going to somehow shift the motivation once again and kind of like scare Alicent back into like, okay, maybe my dad was right territory or like something.
That's a good point.
So it's another, like, I'm waiting to see now what that kind of cliffhanger ending does to push her story forward in potentially a different direction than we got in Fire and Blood.
And along with that, we have Aegon II. They've created a monster. It seems like it. He hasn't become a monster king yet because he's been king for about 5 seconds. Give him time. He probably doesn't need much, but
right. And yet he seemed to turn pretty fast.
He did. He was like, I don't want to be king. And then he's like, wait a minute, actually. Oh,
wait a second.
Cheering.
People are
kind of like
cheering for me, and I have 2 Valyrian steel swords.
He should have started juggling right then and there. Yeah. And the crown, 3 of them. Yeah. Just yeah.
Yeah,
he likes that crowd.
It's funny you say, Kim, like, I have 2 Valyrian steel swords. I am like, I feel like one of them should go to Aemond, like, who actually seems to fight more, but like,
time, no, it won't.
You have a surplus of Valyrian steel right now.
Isn't that funny?
Distribute it.
In Fire and Blood, the one thing he takes is just the crown, and he doesn't call himself king. He doesn't actually take the sword. He's like, yeah, I'll take the crown, call myself not king. But you keep the sword, even though I'm going into battle.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like you would take the sword.
It could have been Blackfire versus Dark Sister if he had taken it too. That would have been really something. So George was probably like, I'm tempted to do this, but then I'd have to have both swords retrieved from God's Eye. It's already kind of sketchy to retrieve one of them.
Yeah.
True. So anyway.
True.
So yeah, we'll just see what they do with that. It's going to be really interesting. And we know that from our interview with Ryan Condal that he's particularly interested in the story of Aegon II. So that just makes us think that it's going to be particularly nuanced or interesting or whatever. He's got plans.
It's already been more nuanced and interesting than I would have expected. If you'd asked me before the season at all, I probably wouldn't have expected to find Aegon relatable is extreme word, but interesting, more likable. Like, I mean, he's still terrible, but like, I actually, it was a different interview where they talked about Aegon and how, like, I had kind of looked at the Aegon scene with Diana as just being like a kind of traditional rape, I guess. But the interview made it seem like it really was not meant to be portrayed in that way. It was meant to be more of like this is a person in power that Aegon is. He didn't realize that, like, I don't know about y'all, but when I watched the scene, I thought, oh, Aegon raped this girl.
He
grabbed her and raped her. It's like, no, this was more of one of the, still rape, but more of a position of power. Like, he didn't realize that, like, this girl didn't want to do it. Whereas, which is a very different sort of scene.
It's part of his upbringing, in other words.
So, it's part of his upbringing, exactly. So, like, I definitely do not excuse Aegon, and it still counts, but it changed my perspective on who he is a little bit, because I had been thinking of him as like a very standard terrible person.
That is a little different.
Yeah, like he's, and I don't think that I watched or that I saw whatever figure reference.
Oh yeah, the interview. Sarah Hess was saying, and it was an interview with her where she brought up how she basically said that people looked at it as if she was excusing it, but she wasn't. She was just saying, like, no, like, this is how people justify doing these things. Like, they're not necessarily, he's not a psychopath like Joffrey, who would just do it and be like, this is terrible, and I did it anyways.
Right, because, like where Joffrey took genuine pleasure out of seeing people be in pain, it's like Aegon has some cognitive dissonance happening with, like, what he's entitled to as this person in the castle. And we see, I think, again, I appreciated that we didn't have to see that order of events. The thing that was important was, like, the absolute terror in Diana's body about, like,
she did a great job.
She clearly didn't want what just happened to happen, but she didn't know how to stop it because of that exact power imbalance. Like, her understanding is, I'm here to do whatever my king wants me to do, and the thing that he just did to me is completely ruining my life.
Yeah, we got a kitty on here too, but yeah, exactly. So it added a little bit more nuance to
because it is really it's really disturbing to hear from a man who has assaulted a woman like that just, like, genuinely not think that they did anything wrong, because their understanding of how sex and consent and power work have been so incredibly warped.
Yeah, he's more messed up if he thinks that he can just violently take any woman he wants. Like, it's still messed up, as Ashaya and you were both saying. It's still very wrong, but it's a different sort of messed up.
Yeah, it's a different sort of thing, but it's also, I think, more real or insidious insidious to, like, today. Like, to the type of people that, like, we might have a friend who's been in that, like, a situation where they didn't realize, like, yeah, you raped that girl, but, like, you didn't realize at the time it still count. Anyways, like, without getting too hung up on this early topic, but it really made me think a little bit more about Aegon and how he's not maliciously minded, but just oblivious, just blind and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, talking about the Dragon Pit, let's move on to some of the things that happened there. There's a lot of nice setup. Rhaenys is going to be, if it goes, again, caveat, if it goes the same as the book, will be killed by the trap set by Criston Cole with Aegon and Aemond. We wouldn't get a chance to have her process, oops, I guess I wish I had killed them after all, but we'll probably guess at the times, like, maybe I should have just killed them when I had the chance, in her final moments or something like that. But
yeah, like, her mercy is what comes back around.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, well. Sucks
when you try and do the thing in Westeros.
Yeah, never. No one ever. There's no rewards for that.
Yep.
So it's funny too, because we were all really wondering what the heck that weird scene from the trailer that was with the, like, someone jumping off a cliff. We were all trying to figure out what that was. It was Meleys bursting through the ground. There was no way for us to figure that out. There was no way. No. Another thing we missed mentioning at the time was the Dragon Pit is on Rhaenys' hill. Not her Rhaenys, but it is, a person with the name Rhaenys, obviously Aegon's sister. So that's pretty cool. Didn't think of that.
Yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that either.
The common folk now have a bigger reason to be hateful towards dragons, which is very important. Sean, our Unsullied co-host on Mondays, was like, he always stands up for the common folk in all TV shows. And I was assuring him, I was like, this won't be forgotten. This isn't just going to be brushed under the rug. And he was like, good,
I think that's important.
Right? It is. Yeah. Right? That's a pretty
I think you were the first person I saw to point that out, of being like, all the people who are complaining that this was treated so cavalierly are going to be vindicated down the line.
Yeah.
Like, that is the point. You're supposed to be a little upset that this happened in such, like, a casual type of way, like, for lack of a better word. It wasn't casual, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah.
New theory, though. So Sean also noticed that there were lambs. There was a guy with lambs, and he was like, it's like lambs to the slaughter. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is, Sean. Lambs to the slaughter. And I was like, holy crap, that's the shepherd. Like that could have actually been the shepherd. I don't think they showed his face because they wouldn't have cast the actual actor for it yet. But that could be the actual shepherd who loses his hand. Like, you could imagine someone losing their hand in that kind of disaster, and being mad about it, and being, getting people into a state of riot, and eventually storming the Dragon Pit, which will happen probably not season 2. I guess that's more of a season 3 thing. I would think season 3. I'm gonna guess season 3 right now, but we'll have other guesses later when it gets closer.
Solid prediction.
So that's a pretty big deal, to talk about the shepherd and get people mad at dragons and mad at Targaryens. And yeah, I think that's important, because in the book, it just kind of happens, which, there's plenty of reason for them to be mad, but there's no one specific trigger. And this maybe is a little, I appreciate it. It's additional groundwork that I think is maybe even needed.
Yeah.
Especially like combined with Mysaaria's whole like the people are who give you the power statement in this episode. Plus, like, they've taken the time to show us a little bit of the small folk perspective with like Damon and Rhaenyra's little adventure out and the play. Like, all of that was like there to let us know that the small folks' perception of what is going on is a factor here. Yeah. Like, is going to come into play later.
That is great. Yeah, it's important that they include that. And I think people, like you said, people who want that to be a thing and are wary that it won't be, because it wasn't much of a thing in original Game of Thrones, is going to be more important here.
Yeah,
it was a thing in Game of Thrones, just not as much.
Yeah, I would really like them to set up a real POV type character as a small folk. Like, I think there's room for them to do that, to have a person on the ground. And I mean, Mysaria can even take that role on if they wanted to. Like, if they wanted to give us time where we see just Mysaria, like, she could be that. But I don't know that she will be. But like, if they give us Essie and Sylvena Sand, or like, I don't know, I feel like they could do really well with this, but I kind of have really low expectations for this whole small folk thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
We shall see. I think Otto yelling for them to open the door may have been set up as well, because Dreamfire will be stuck inside if they follow that Fire and Blood before she blasts the ceiling, and a much larger collapse than what we saw will take place. That's going to be really...
That's a good point, too.
So we'll see about that. We shall see. A couple super chats here. Maura Lee sends 2 super chats, one for the 3 of us and one for Casanova, the cat who joined our stream for a moment. I think most of y'all know Casanova's our cat by now, but just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
He's a co-star. Kizzy sends a super chat, says, excited for next episode, and thanks for this episode too. Right on. We appreciate it, Kizzy. We will keep the discussion rolling. And let's go to Dragonstone. Red Wings, Dark Words, that's referring to Meleys, the Red Queen, because she is the one...
I was thinking of something else.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, God.
Leaks, like, Red Wings, I just can't stop myself today.
I know.
Rhaenys is bringing word to her that she's now the Black Queen, except for one small problem. You would be queen, except the greens are coming for you, Rhaenyra, and your children. That's a line from the trailer. And... ooh, yeah, quite a warning. There's a really awesome shot here. A shout out to our allies. We'll call them allies over at Far, Far Away site. We get a lot of our images from them. It's really, really good. High quality, good stuff. So we have this really excellent shot of Rhaenys next to her grandchildren. They just look so color coordinated and hair coordinated, and yeah.
I am glad to finally see, 2 things. One, I'm glad to see Baela in Targaryen colors, her colors now, because she was in the Velaryon colors for Rhaenys and for her mother. But I don't think I ever said this on the podcast, but on the House of the Dragon Guide site, it like shows the gowns for the girls or whatever. And so it said for Baela, blue dress in honor of her, Velaryon mother or whatever it says. So then it shows Rhaena and her black and red dress, and it said black and red dress in honor of her grandmother, Rhaenys.
Like it's like your father.
Your
is
father's
a Targaryen.
Targaryen. You're Targaryen. You yourself
got a dad. They have one living parent, and he's a Targaryen.
He's a pretty important one.
But it's like, nope, Rhaena is a Rhaenys stan. She's a grandmother's girl, and she wears her grandmother's colors only for her grandma,
She's
apparently.
about her grandma, yep. And speaking of great matching, look at this shot of the two married couples. The way their colors just flow into each other is just perfect. Look at that. The red on red, the black on black. It is really well done. That is a well coordinated photograph right there. I like it.
I also, just a quick flashback to episode 9, I really liked seeing Aegon in full black.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That was cool.
He did
too.
look good. He did look like a king, other than the dark circles under his eyes from
those
the
red under eyes. Yeah,
the hangover.
The hangover,
Was still
the hangover king. He definitely had the trappings of power part. They got that part, like except for leaving out the dragons, but still.
Can I just say, talking about him looking like a king, I really loved in the coronation scene when Kristen's like announcing him, and he just goes, "Aegon the king."
Yeah, the king. And they're like, okay, now we'll cheer. Yeah, all right.
Kristen Cole is such a dork. Like that whole
his hat, right?
Yeah, I was like, dude, the vibe you think you're giving off is not hitting.
So Sir Eric is going to show up with the crown and offer it. It's kind of a strange thing. A strange line. He says, "I pledge toward, like I fart in your general direction. Like I pledge in your general direction."
I was enjoying. I think it was Joe Magician tweeted this, and he said, "Nu, you dropped this king, and just as you dropped this queen." I'm like, yeah, I do want to edit the text onto this. You dropped this queen.
So I wonder if the other Kingsguard are like, wait, Eric, which one are you?
Yeah,
we're happy to see you, bro, but I don't know which one you are.
Thanks for joining the cause. Remind me which letter it is again.
Yeah. But that is probably pretty nice. There's two Kingsguard there. We don't know. One of them is Stefan Darkland. The other one is, we're not sure which. We narrowed it down. Yeah. Wellsfeld and Laurent Marbrand, or one of the others. And so they're probably like, yeah, all right, there's three of us now. And we still don't know where Harold Westerling is. Any thoughts on that? That's a very big cliffhanger. Show the book obviously doesn't give us any clue, because it could have been him being the one to deliver the crown. That would have been my guess. Right. Would have been our guess if it weren't for Eric quite clearly having that role here.
Yeah. Do y'all think that we'll see him this season, Kim, or do you think that's going to be like leave him hanging?
I hope we do, but I don't really have any guesses as to where they'll decide to insert him.
Are you surprised because he's like he wasn't used a lot? I know some people said, wow, this is like Graham McTavish being such a major actor, like one of the more famous established actors on the show prior to it starting. And he didn't have a big role, so some people thought maybe he'll just, like, we thought he would die, like Kristen Cole becomes Lord Commander. It made sense that he would die, but he hasn't, so looks like he's going to be in season 2, right? I mean, at this point it kind of, so they've got plans. I don't know what's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that he kind of got his little star moment in the Green Council scene. Like, I really liked the way that they showed his reaction to what was happening as the Lord Commander versus Kristen and versus the Eric and Eric. And, like, they're giving us a bunch of different ways in which Kingsguard might respond and when something like this happens with, like, that little gap of power of the line of succession. So yeah, I don't know. Given how present he was in, like, the pilot with Rhaenyra and Damon, like the fact that he was the one who, like, brought Rhaenyra to Damon in the throne room and stuff.
Gods be good.
It would feel better to me if he, like, resurfaces somewhere around Rhaenyra in the future,
that's a
or
good
at least
point,
at least to have a conversation with her.
He has been more
something.
attached to her. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, so that's exciting. Like we were like a foregone conclusion last week with our prediction. Just about, we were like, oh, so Cole's just going to kill him. I was like, oh, that's how they're going to do it. Okay, well, next topic, because there's that shot with them pointing swords at each other and. Like, well, and we expected Cole to become Lord Commander, which I guess he technically didn't. They just have left that open at this point.
Which is also weird to me because, like,
the king should make that name, I guess.
Well, like, what's weird to me is that if Cole is now the Lord Commander or whatever, and he seems to be because he then, crowned Aegon, so he has some position of power, but it seems like that just kind of undermines your whole regime, your whole reign right there. If you're crowned by someone who couldn't really be named Lord Commander because the Kingsguard, when he took over, was still like, it makes it even messier than it already was.
That's a good point. They maybe could have addressed that. Yeah, I think they maybe wanted to continue to keep him as the kingmaker, though frankly he's less kingmaky to this point than he was in the book by a pretty substantial amount. We've had a back and forth with Sean a lot this year about how Sean's like, I don't quite understand why Kristen Cole is so hated. Like, yeah, he does some bad things, but why is he so high up there?
He's so hated. It's the extremity of the hate for Kristen that has gotten Sean, to be clear. Like,
and I think I got to agree with Sean. He's not a good guy by any means, no way. But he is considerably less bad than his book version to this point, and we'll see what happens later. But he's still a dork, like you said.
Yeah.
I think they did a weird thing too in episode 9 with that little vibe that goes between Alicent and Cole when she's like,
"Oh yeah,
however you feel about me," and like gets like a little closer to him
as your queen.
And I was like, I feel like they're setting him up to have much more like emotional stakes in being on Alicent's side and wanting Aegon. Like the fact that he killed, the way that they like set up him killing Beesbury too, different from the book, was like when he's like, nobody will talk about my queen like that.
Yeah.
She's like, bro, he didn't even insult me, like chill out. But she still doesn't, she's not like down boy entirely. She's sort of like, okay,
just
like
put your sword away.
they're doing something there that maybe is supposed to build into him eventually like breaking full.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's been pretty terrible this season.
Yeah, he's more like, I think you're right. He's more like attack dog than leader. I think that's the difference. Like he's not driving the evil ship. He's just part of it, which is so he's along for the ride. So that's probably where Sean's coming from. He's like, he doesn't have agency in most of these spots. He's just kind of the sword arm that acts out when it isn't wanted to. Like Alison's like you said, he's like, all he did was say some things. Chill out, Cole.
And preseason when I was talking to Ryan Condal about the like which characters they had decided to recast, and I was asking about like what age are they about supposed to be at the start of the show versus jumping ahead. And with Kristen and Damon, he was like, we didn't really have conversations about like age numbers, but more of like worldviews. And it's like the idea that Kristen Cole came into the Kingsguard with this very like summer night like idea of what the roles and customs of court would be like, and this sort of like fanciful, naive thought about what it meant to be a knight. And then it's like in the time jump we see that he's become this much more like bitter, I'm just following Alicent because she seems to me to be like the pinnacle of the faith and like
he's like an attack
correct
dog.
Morals. Right. It's like he's in it for the morality, but in like kind of a hypocritical way.
Her morality. She defines the morality, not like there isn't some like ground base, something that he's some other exterior force that he's turning towards her. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
By the way, I don't know if you expressed confusion about whether there was a Lord Commander, but Alicent did.
She did name him?
She did tell Otto. She's like, and we're going to name Kristen as Lord Commander of Aegon's Kingsguard.
Okay.
He'll crown
you're right.
She
did say that.
I didn't realize that you were confused. Definitely she did.
Yeah, I think I even put that in the synopsis.
I was more saying that I just felt like it undermines the very idea of why you would name someone a Lord Commander when I feel like you would be trying to get Harold Westerling back. Like, that's what I took from him saying that was like, there's no king right now, but once y'all figure this all out, call me up and I'll come back. Like, that was what I took out of it. But clearly Otto and Alicent took, no, I'm done for good. I will never be this Kingsguard, which is just not what I took from it.
Right. Because Alicent, I think the breaking point for Harold in that moment was that they were ordering him to go kill Rhaenyra and her children, and he wouldn't. The fact that Alicent doesn't want to do that, wouldn't that put Harold a little bit more back in line? But we didn't see any conversations past that point.
And wouldn't Alicent, wouldn't she be more likely to reach out like, oh, Harold didn't want to kill Rhaenyra. That's a good Kingsguard who I want in the Kingsguard after all, or anything like that.
Well, part of it, I think, too, is that in that moment, she was competing with her father for the coronation, and promoting Cole was expedient for that towards that goal as well. Like he's her attack dog, so now she's kind of got control of the Kingsguard going forward, and that was important given she knew Otto. I mean, Otto had just sent Eric and Arik to try to get Aegon first. She just kind of got lucky that Cole found them. So, yeah.
Right.
All right, let's talk about this peace offering, because it's probably, I'm guessing it's going to be early-ish in the episode. Maybe not, but let's act as if it is for now. It's at 51 seconds in the trailer. We see the shot that you pointed out, Kim, very accurately, is shades of episode 2, 20 years later. We have Otto and Orwyle and the Hightower men. And Rhaenyra is wearing her crown this time. Instead of Millie Alcock, we have Emma D'Arcy. We still have Matt Smith, and we still have Rhys Ifans. And we have Eric and Arik facing each other down. I think Arik is the only Kingsguard brought with Otto and Orwyle. I didn't see any other white cloaks anyway. And meanwhile, Rhaenyra and Damon have 3. They're 3 on their side. And let's take the quote from Fire and Blood, because I think it's pretty similar. I bet the offer is going to be pretty similar too. And that'll frame our discussion here.
All right. I'll read that then. The terms offered by the king were generous, Monken declares in his true telling. If the princess would acknowledge him as king and make obeisance before the Iron Throne, Aegon II would confirm her in her possession of Dragonstone and allow the island and castle to pass to her son Jacaerys upon her death. Her second son, Lucerys, would be recognized as the rightful heir to Driftmark and the lands and holdings of House Velaryon. Her boys, by Prince Damon, Aegon the Younger, and Viserys, would be given places of honor at court, the former as the king's squire, the latter as his cupbearer. Pardons would be granted to those lords and knights who had conspired treasonously with her against their true king.
Yeah, so the reason I said it doesn't look like it's going well is because they draw their swords. We see that in the trailer just like they did in episode 2. And of course, we wouldn't expect this to go very well. I mean, we know this is about to break out into war. And of course, Rhaenyra and Daemon won't be happy with the theft of Rhaenyra's throne. So that seems like it'd be pretty predictable. I wonder if we'll get the Orwyle scene where she tells Orwyle, like she takes his chain or anything like that. Probably it doesn't look like she's going to get to walk up to him or anything. It looks like the swords drawn and everything means they might keep their distance. But she may say a similar line, which I hope we get because it was really good, the Fire and Blood line. We may also get the farewell of Eric and Arik. There's a lot written about this in Fire and Blood and in A Song of Ice and Fire. We wanted to talk a little more about this last week, but we didn't have time. The discussion got away from us. We had so much to say. But Eric and Arik will be a great topic to do when their story is complete. For now, we get this talk of this song. Shea, if you'd like to read this quote as well.
Yeah. Long after the dance was done, the singer Lucian of Tarth would compose a sad ballad called Farewell, My Brother, still sung today. The song purports to relate the last meeting between Ser Arik Cargyle and his twin, Ser Eric, as Orwyle's party was boarding the ship that would carry them back to King's Landing. I like to call that a salad. Sad ballad.
A salad. It just occurred to me that the Stark theme is called Goodbye, Brother, right?
Oh, isn't it?
In season 1.
Oh, from John and Rob, yeah.
And there's a little opportunity here if they wanted it for Ramin to
tweak that,
echo that theme a little bit for Farewell, My Brother.
Good catch. You're totally right. We'll be on the lookout, or the hear out for that. The ear out. Mm-hmm. Both ears.
Did you guys also think it was fun to hear the King's Arrival song in the coronation scene?
It was like tickling the back of my mind, like this is familiar, but I was distracted by other stuff, by so many other things going on, and didn't fully register. So that's what that was. That was the.
Yeah, it's the same music that we heard when Robert was arriving to Winterfell in the pilot episode of Game of Thrones,
no
and it's almost like there's an in-universe. It's like this is just the King melody that we're gonna play anytime that there's a king arriving somewhere or like a coronation or something. I thought that was kind of cool. Like the happy birthday song of Westeros. But this is the song for kings.
Will Rhaenyra get that too? It's maybe there's a different song for queens.
Yeah, Queen's Arrival.
Well, Queen has a song called "The Black Queen," so maybe they'll just play that. She could have that. It'd be a little out of world.
That would be so weird. Black Queen just all of a sudden.
Wait, that's Freddie Mercury. What the hell? All right. I didn't know this was an in-world song. That's surprising, actually. Yes.
Little anachronisms.
Yeah.
First piano, now Queen.
Yeah, I really wonder how they're going to handle this Eric arc. You know, if they're just going to like look at each other. I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem like they'll have a chance to like talk. You know, I don't know. Maybe they will, but the way this is framed with them just talk, like everybody arrayed on the walkway like that, it doesn't seem to facilitate conversations between other people.
I'm imagining Arik is just like, that's where you went. I've been looking for you for weeks. I thought you died in this court.
Bro, we were fighting and then you just weren't there anymore.
Where did you go, brother? It's like, I went to Dragonstone. You know?
I feel like the geography of Dragonstone and like the whole layout, there's a lot of opportunities for like secret beach meetings or something, like everyone who's on that platform, I think that there's a case to be made that one of them could sneak away at some point before boarding a ship and have like a final conversation. So whether that's an Orwell or maybe it would be an Eric Arik.
That's a good point. There were a lot of like beach conversations at Dragonstone in the original Game of Thrones, and there's been a couple here too. So that's a good point. Yeah, there are, and you're right. Like some sort of secret tunnel. They could go to the Dragon Glass caves. Those are still there.
Oh yeah,
presumably.
Yeah, no, they only formed in the last 100 years.
Yeah. We see someone hurriedly painting White Walker symbols on the inside of the caves.
Baela and Rhaenyra are down in there doing. It's like it was them. Oh, no one suspected Baela and Rhaenyra of being the actual people that carved
fraud. Cave painting fraud.
Don't look, it wasn't us. I swear. Let's take a question or two here. Looks like Jean-Luc Picard Larys. No, is this Jean-Luc Picard Larys, or is this Jean-Luc Picard talking about Larys?
Talking about Larys.
Okay. Yeah. Someone named Jean-Luc Picard talking about Larys says, no reason why I can't benefit you as well, Otto Hightower. Yeah.
Otto.
It
was a pun. I just wanted to share. I really liked Otto.
I see. Like toes.
Yeah. I referred to one of like Larys's little minions as a foot soldier in writing.
A foot soldier.
And then I was
oh my goodness.
I'm like, basically where I'm at with all that whole Larys foot stuff is like, I don't think it's a funny thing in and of itself, but like I do love a good foot pun. So like I'm gonna still make all the foot and toe and all those puns, but don't take that as me being like, yeah, super on board, haha, foot stuff, toe funny. It's not me making fun of the foot fetish. It's just the foot puns.
It's wordplay.
It's wordplay.
We're in it for the wordplay.
Yeah, to be clear.
We like the puns. So here's a question from JF. Sent an email. Where do we think the show is going to end? At what point will they wrap the Dance of the Dragons portion of House of the Dragon?
Okay, I got my answer, what I think, strongly.
Their guess, Jay's guess, is Hour of the Wolf, like just after that, and I think that makes some sense. I think maybe just the well, okay, go ahead. Your guess is more ready than mine.
I think it'll be Aegon and Viserys being reunited. I think you end on a happy note that they're reunited. That's my thought. And again, the show can finagle and they can finesse things to where things get timed out differently so that other significant things are happening then or whatever else. But I think that it'll end with like, oh, Viserys is also alive and he's back. And I don't know. That's the general note that I expect. I saw someone who, I wish I could remember who it was who tweeted it, but it really stuck with me where they were like, what they wanted was for the last scene of the show to just be little Aegon, like crying alone in his room. Just like depressed Aegon. And I'm like, yeah, I would like, that would be what I want too, actually. Like, as sad as that is, I would just like to like leave the audience with like, no, this is what we're left with is a sad, depressed little boy who lost everyone in his life. And like, I don't know. I would be happy with that. Sad about that.
Yeah. Wow. What do you have a prediction there, Kim, or any thoughts on where it might end?
For the final shot.
Yeah.
Or
vague, like
final
a vague
plot
sense
moment,
of where,
or just like a, because like I mean I know like Cregan will be featured and all that, but but I don't expect to see a lot of the like Lyseni and stuff like that. For example, like I don't expect to see that.
Yeah, I kept thinking the way that I sometimes have been thinking about House of the Dragon is like, what would I do if I were like trying to structure a show that appealed to like the Game of Thrones fans and everybody. And the biggest parallel that I could think between the season 1 finale of Game of Thrones and here is the Rhaenyra stillbirth. Because like Dany was born on Dragonstone in a storm. It seems like they're setting up this big thunderstorm atmosphere for this episode. Also Dany's stillbirth of Rhaego, like same descriptors about like it being a little monster and having like scaly tails and all this stuff. There's like a lot of thematic resonance between how season 1 ended with like Dany's birth of her dragons, and it's like, are they going to go full tragedy with like Rhaenyra having a stillborn child for the first time, and like the pain of that, because childbirth has been like the dominant
it's been huge
emotional touch points throughout this whole season. So I feel like that would be probably a reasonable end cap.
Okay. I'll throw out a guess. I'll say the marriage of Aegon and Jaehaera. Aegon the younger, obviously, and Jaehaera. So that it would appear to be uniting blacks and greens at the end, even though we know that doesn't work out as well as it could have. It would look like that. It would be like a reasonable point that appears to be peaceful and maybe a sign of good things to come. So I'll throw that as my guess. I think in that general vicinity, though, I think we're all pretty close on the general time frame.
Yeah.
And you brought up
my co-host
Zelda
has joined us.
Yay, another cat.
More cats.
Oh,
we love the kitties.
we do.
So you brought up Visenya from Rhaenyra's baby Visenya. That was actually one of our next questions here. How do we suppose they're going to handle that? Obviously, she's not as pregnant at this point in the show. They could just have a month or two go by. Like, obviously, it's what we do see from the trailer is she's summoned her council, which means people who aren't at Dragonstone. That implies some time has to pass. So they could just fast forward a few months doing that if we wanted to. That would make sense to have her be a little bit more pregnant. However, from the trailer shot, she doesn't appear to be like super pregnant, like she's about to pop out a child. It looks like it's still a few months away. So unless there is the time jump during the episode, maybe Visenya doesn't come along till next season? What do you... I'm guessing this is something that a lot of people know about already because of the leaks, but since we don't know, we can theorize about it. What do you think?
I was also thinking that because of how visibly... Like, I've never been pregnant, but, right, she didn't seem like she was, like, in third trimester going to give birth any moment physicality in the way that I recognize in TV. And so then I was like, well, maybe... The book Fire and Blood also says that it's like the news of her father's death sent her into a rage, which then sent her into her labors. And I'm like, if they decide to make it that it's a premature labor because of whatever emotional turmoil is going on, that might also be the reason why the baby doesn't survive, is because it is actually too early. But like, we know that happens sometimes.
Yeah, that would still fit. Yeah, that would actually be a very reasonable, simple way to handle it. Just have it come early and yeah, she could still blame
and have that be like. Right, still blame the fact that she went into early labor on the fact that all this was happening, or like emotional turmoil, or just add to the tragedy of what she's going through in that moment of, because the fact that she's had 6 children,
or will have, that's a lot.
Will have had, that's a lot, and they haven't given us any indication that any of those births were particularly like scary for her yet. They haven't shown us those births, so the fact, like, we saw Joffrey's birth, which was obviously like traumatizing, but the baby was healthy, everything was okay at the end, so this would be like her first encounter with that really scary childbirth that we know that memory of what happened to her mother is very important for her. And that
was like the first scene. She flies, right? Then she hangs out with Alicent for a second. They walk, and then they go to Emma's chamber, and it's immediately the conversation about this is where we fight our battles. This is, you're going to have kids too, Rhaenyra, and then 20 minutes later, she's delivering, and it's that tragic scene. So I pretty much saw that coming a mile away at the beginning of the season. We're like, okay, well, we have a sense of where this season's going to end. It very much lines up with her 6th pregnancy. This could be the book ending. Emma with Visenya, that she wanted to call that baby Visenya. Rhaenyra did, not Emma.
Right. That was the name that she had picked out.
Yeah, and Viserys and Emma were like, oof, we've already got our Visenya. They're talking about Damon. Right?
And they had been so hoping it was a boy. Or Viserys had been so hoping it was a boy, whereas Rhaenyra had already picked out. That was very well. So it seemed like with that, like,
really settled it in my mind. Like, oh, they're even using
yeah.
the name Visenya here. Like, that's definitely.
Yeah, there's like zero. Like you put it here in the document, you're like, seems like it's a season 2 thing now. I'm like, no, like to me, there's zero doubt in my mind that this is going to happen at the end of this season. That it just makes like it just bookends it parallels the season 1, episode 1 so well. It just makes sense to me to do that.
And you're right. Like, she doesn't have to be 8 months pregnant for it to work.
It was so early. Yeah, the point is that she miscarries and has the baby early. It doesn't matter about it being 8 months or 7 months or 6 months.
Yeah, you're right. That's not a big difference.
That's really no difference at all.
It might mean they don't do the like dragon baby aspect of it, but maybe they will. I mean, I could still do that too.
That's what I'm curious to see, is how like into any sort of like supernatural prophecy vibes they're going to go with it, or if it's just going to be
like
straightforward the way that the other childbirths have been.
Yeah, I guess if they went that direction, I would expect that they would like have it described or told to us, because I really don't feel like they will show a dead baby, like a miscarriage. Like I don't think they want to show that. That's what I think would hold them back more than anything. Like that seems.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Like,
if it looks so supernatural, that might actually make it less human. That might actually be better because it doesn't look like a human.
Yeah, if it doesn't look human at all, but it seems like there's a lot of it could be a very difficult thing to do right. So but I could see someone being like, and the baby, it had wings, and like we never know, did it really, or was someone just saying that? Like maybe they could go one of those ways with it, where they keep it vague.
I see Scott of Greywater watches. Maybe we can get Damon passing a kidney stone. Yeah, maybe not.
He's having, what are they called? Like, when like you're in pain because someone else is in pain. Like,
the sympathy pains. Yeah, exactly.
Sympathy pains. Damon's having sympathy pains next room over.
Lots of Greyjoys have had urine pains. Heyo. So Betrayed King says, thoughts on the theory that Rhaenyra takes Sea Smoke filling Adam's role instead of being sent off to the Vale.
I put that there because I have not seen that theory. I really like that theory.
That works.
But it still has the issue that we still have to address what's going on with Rhaenyra. Like the point the issue isn't Sea Smoke or who's going to ride Sea Smoke. The issue is, can Sea Smoke have 2 riders, or like what's the deal with this bond? Will Rhaenyra die? All that. So yeah, like that makes sense, but it doesn't actually solve anything other than I guess it solves what will Rhaenyra do, which personally, I think seeing someone living in the Vale during all of this fighting would be a great combo breaker, a great intermission, a great thing to have, right? Like, I don't want it to all just be like, we're fighting and we're fighting and we're fighting. Like, I would like to see, here's Rhaenyra with Jane Eyre in the Vale and what she's doing. And I don't know. I think that can be interesting.
Especially, again, back to my thought about, like, they really don't seem to have wasted a single set piece or character. So it's like the fact that they showed us Damon in the Vale, like, I know that's not the Eyrie castle that we saw before, but like the general vicinity, it's like maybe we saw it that one time because it's going to be a future set piece that they want to center a certain story around. And now if that happens in season 2, like the season 1 viewers are like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this place. Like we've already hinted at it before, instead of it being a brand new location for them to have to introduce.
Yeah. I'm like, I like the Sea Smoke idea, but as I think about it more, I'm like, I really don't want anything that takes me away from Jane Eyre and Jessamine Redford, who I'm very excited for. Like, come on. I shouldn't have low expectations, but I do. I don't expect much. I'll be happy if I just meet my canon lesbian maiden. Like, give me her. Give me Jane Eyre, and I'll be happy. But it would be even cooler if we actually see like lengthy scenes of Rhaenyra in her court and dealing. Like, I don't know. I like the court intrigue stuff. I don't just like the battle stuff. So like, I would like to continue to see court stuff.
Yeah. Court and bedroom stuff. I feel like this season has also like spent a lot of time in like the intimate spaces of people's bedrooms in a way that we didn't always get with Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Or like we're getting more of it. Of like,
and not just
the king.
Yeah, not just bedroom. As to be clear, you don't mean just bedroom as in like sexual times, but like the behind
not
the
just
scenes.
Sex not sex and dinner, but like sitting and playing with my kids, sitting and talking to etc. people, like all taking place inside this like intimate, private areas of the castle. Like I think that's also why I really love the opening scene of episode 9 of just seeing the castle at like near dawn time, and like the kitchens and the little quiet inner workings and birds chirping. Like you really felt a sense of place with that building, as opposed to it just feeling like, I don't know. I've just been,
I
that's
agree.
something that I've noticed.
No, I do agree with that completely.
Right. Okay. And now a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. Did you realize that pretty much everywhere you browse these days, you are being tracked? And for the most part, it's not a big deal, but a lot of times it is because they will use that information to charge you more money. Usually that's what happens. Usually that information is used to charge you extra, whether it's for plane tickets, whether it's to black out things in your area so that they make you pay for another service, whether it's to block you from seeing sports, whether it's to throttle your bandwidth because you're not some business that's paying extra money. All these problems can be avoided with just a simple sign up for NordVPN. For about the cost of a cup of coffee per month, you can avoid all these things. You can save lots of money, whether it's, again, from airline tickets, whether it's for signing up on things, whether it's from avoiding extra surcharges. It's a great deal. I mean, you're going to save money almost right away if you do any of the things that I've just mentioned. You can use it on Windows, Android, iOS, macOS, Linux. VPN is legal in all but 4 countries in the world. You probably don't live in one of those countries if you're listening to the show. China, Iraq, Belarus, and Russia. So unless you're living in one of those countries, you're going to save money by getting a NordVPN subscription. NordVPN.com/thrones will get you a huge discount and 4 additional months for free. The description is in the link, or in the is in the link. The link is in the description. Ooh, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, or the egg and the chicken?
The SEO or the idea?
The modern version of that, yes. So yes, check out NordVPN.com/thrones. Save some money, browse anonymously and faster. Okay, so we had a couple other topics that we had put on the shelf. One was the Larys foot issue. We have not seen a single person say good things about it from the disabled community. And that was kind of our final realization. We were like, what I said last time was, I'm not really interested in hearing takes from people who aren't in the disabled community. I want to hear what disabled folk have to say about this. We needed some time to let that filter in. It's been about a week, and that's what you said to me in the car the other day, Shea.
I was like, well, I haven't seen a positive take. I've seen neutral takes, to be clear, and I've seen many negative takes, but I haven't seen a positive take. And as much as I can be like, well, the neutral takes exist, so, like, you know, it's a complex situation, but no one's been like, oh, Larys is great representation. I love seeing a disabled, like, person who's fixated on their disability. Like, no one has come out in support of this exactly, so that's where I've landed, for sure.
It's like,
down.
Yeah, I'm guessing they'll maybe downplay it going forward because the reaction hasn't been that great.
Yeah, like I feel like I saw someone in the chat earlier that was like, well, what would you guys? Is there anything you guys would critique in the show? And in the chat, I replied that I wish we'd had more Lena, and they were like, that isn't really a critique. That's saying you want more of nothing, more of something.
Fair point.
I was like, okay, fair point. I want less of this. There we go. There's my critique. I want less of all this. Like, but again, I'm not coming out anti-foot fetish. To be clear,
that is a separate thing. Yes.
I'm anti this character who is disabled having that be the feature. Like, we just, and again, if we gotten more with Valar, like, I feel like you could have this and maybe do it in a good, I don't know. There's room.
Like if Aegon the Second had a foot fetish, that would be like, whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If Aegon 2 had a foot fetish, I would have no problem with that.
And he's still a villain, but he's not, it's not like about something. Yeah. It's not related to his disability.
They still could have done that scene and had Alicent, like, just take off the top covering, like, show her shoulders or something, and sit there turned away while Larys jerks off in front of her, because that's apparent. Like, you know, like, it still could have been a uncomfortable sexual coercion, quid pro quo situation without it being about feet.
Yeah, definitely.
But it chose very deliberately to make it about feet for Larys, a character who has a club foot, and, like, that it's not the fact that it's the feet that he fixated on and that foot fetishes are weird and gross. It's that entire quid pro quo exchange felt weird and gross, and then it was a little too on the nose and maybe thoughtless to make it specifically about feet.
And I saw that's situation. Not apparently very common, that disabled folk don't, like, fixate on the thing that's their disability. That's not like a common thing at all. So it's
whereas
not
I
like some
thought
real world.
maybe there was a psychological. I felt like
I
there
just
was
didn't
an
know either.
argument where, like, again, for me, what I thought of was Tyrion and how he does have hang-ups about his size, and so that does play into his sexual like interactions with Shay, with her calling him like giant of land. Like it does play into his psychology, but Tyrion is also far more in like his interiority is examined in a way that Larys is not. So I think there's also a big difference there.
We're in his head. Yeah,
we're in his
POV.
head.
That's a big difference.
So it just has to be different. But yeah,
Right. And like,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and yeah, to your point, Larys is only popping up intermittently, where he's not a character that we're spending a lot of time with on his own.
Yeah.
It's like it's in relation to what is happening with Alicent at most points in time.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Well said, everyone. So we'll.
Oh, I have one more point there, which is I've brought it up before, but the counterpoint to all of that I agree with very much is that even disabled people can be messed up psychologically and be terrible people. So I feel like there is a certain argument to be made in terms of like, yes, Kristen's terrible and Aegon's terrible, and so is Larys. He's not exempt from doing those things.
Yeah.
So like
it would be bad if they just like all the disabled people were evil, but we've had like Doran Martell and Bran and characters who are,
and it would be bad
decent.
if all the disabled people were good too, in my opinion. Like that would be like, oh, we don't respect them and like the disabled community enough to let them also be villains. Like I think there's an argument for that, but poorly done, poorly handled, I think.
It makes me think of the George quote about like how someone asked him one time how he writes such great women characters. And he's like, well, I just write people and like and give them a variety of characteristics. Like it's not So I think that was actually, he has included a lot of characters with varying amounts of ability and disability throughout this universe, and it's usually psychologically informed their character in some way. Like you said with Tyrion, much more in depth through the novels. With Larys, we're getting this like Spark Notes summary of his character in Fire and Blood, and then the show's like adding details.
Spark Notes is perfect for the arsonist guy.
So this subject makes me think of another interview of like I've kind of been like I should have stopped reading interviews, they make me whatever, but another interview with one of the writers with Sarah Hess where she brought up the decision why they didn't cast Rhaenyra as fat or make her gain weight later on, and she kind of put her foot in her mouth a bit. I don't think she really meant it the way she said it, but like to address that, because I have seen controversy about that, was that she basically said that Fire and Blood is propaganda and it's anti-black, and so they wanted to make Rhaenyra fat. Like in the book, they say that she's gained weight because it's propaganda, basically, whereas a lot of people have taken that the wrong way, the way that it comes across, which I don't think Sarah Hess means it, which is that being fat is a negative trait. That like
the propagandists are saying that being fat is a negative trait, and so she's trying to remove that propaganda.
So she's trying to remove the propaganda, but Rhaenyra also just had 6 kids. Like it's a normal trait for her to have gained some weight. Like that's a normal thing, and Rhaenyra can still be like a beautiful queen and be fat. So like it was undelicately handled, to say the least, because it does come across as them saying like being fat is a negative trait. We don't want to play into these negative traits, when it's like, no, it's a little more complicated than that. So
right. I feel like it would have been easier to say like, well, we had a long audition process and found Emma Darcy and they are so amazing that they are our adult Rhaenyra, and we didn't want to like give them a fat
gain a lot of weight,
which would be
like,
just let Emma Darcy perform as they perform, and I think that they've done an incredible job with Rhaenyra so far.
Very true.
I'm happy to let Rhaenyra stay as is if this is the performance that we're getting, and just drop that detail from the book, not because being fat is inherently a reason why you shouldn't be queen, but like because that's just the casting that they went with, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with that completely. So just to address that, because I have seen people talk about that a little bit, so I need to just stop reading these interviews, unless they're a Kim interview. You always get some good sound bites. I've never read an interview where you did with a cast member or someone where I was like, damn, I wish they hadn't said that.
Oh, thanks. I guess.
I'm glad that they're not editing out these controversial statements they're making. liking, like in these interviews, but I am also like, stop interviewing these people and getting them to say these things. I just want to fill in the blanks myself sometimes.
Yeah.
I will say with Game of Thrones, I was like, while covering Game of Thrones, I was so focused on like almost like perfectionism, or like I can't miss a single thing or get a single thing wrong. I need to have read every interview, watched every behind the scenes thing, like whatever. I was very, very focused on that. I have totally stepped back from investing that much into all of like the outside stuff happening with the show, because it just is better for my mental health to not be like,
I hear
trying
that.
to memorize every single thing every single person has said about the show, and instead just like absorb it, come to my own conclusions, and be wrong sometimes, or like have missed something and let somebody else fill in that gap where needed. And so yeah, with I like all of those behind the scenes things, I haven't really sat down and watched a lot of them yet, because I'm like, I have my own approach to how I think and feel about the show, and it's okay if my interpretation of something is different than one of the executive producers, or what the intent was going for there. I'm having a little more of a death of the author vibe.
I agree with you on that completely, unless it supports my opinion, in which case life of the author.
Right. I'm very conveniently using the quotes that support my analysis. But sometimes I'm just like, I can let that one.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't on screen, so I don't have to choose that that's actually what the reasoning was. If they didn't put it on screen, I can ignore it. Or I can choose to accept it. Exactly. It's great.
Rain didn't say, "You are a mother, Allison. So that's why I am not killing you right now."
Just yelling that. Like, hey, can you hear me down there? The reason I'm not killing you is... What'd she say? She just say she's about to kill us?
She say I'm a bad mom.
The French fries will be ready shortly. So, next little bit, we had a lot of people write in to discuss Helaena for us, and it was very, very nice. A lot of people wrote in with helpful ways to discuss Helaena respectfully, to discuss neurodivergent folk and to illuminate access to certain relatively common behavior with neurodivergent folk that we may not recognize as fairly common. And that was very helpful. We don't have a lot about Helaena to say today, but I wanted to acknowledge that, and that going forward, we'll be more prepared for that, and we'll be a little less worried about putting my foot in my mouth. I was like trying to I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I also want to explain this. So yeah, that was very helpful to those of you who sent things in. The resources, appreciate that.
Yeah, we do
Good
appreciate
job, community.
it. And we love Helaena.
We do love Helaena. I'm looking forward to more Helaena. I love her. Just, where is not here?
Of course he's not here. He's never here with his wife and kids.
Have you been paying attention, Mother? He doesn't hang out in my room unless he's...
Like he's not very interested in me in general. I don't know why you'd think he'd be in here in the first place. I hope you looked here, I hope this was low on your list of
this
places to look,
stop.
Mom. It's like, is this the first place you looked? Because that was a mistake. Yeah,
I love Helaena.
We're going to get to see something awesome this episode, which is Vermithor. And Damon's going to sing him a little song, apparently. And this next phrase, think of this in Mr. Burns' voice. And Mr. Burns from The Simpsons is rather perfect as a Targaryen analog because his name is Burns. And he's rich and old, and that's fitting. So what's in store, Vermithor? That's what I want to know. What is in store, Vermithor? What is going on here? Like, what is Damon doing? Why is he going to check out Vermithor? This is not
just
from
continuing
Fire
his
and Blaze.
eggs,
Just checking
his egg collection.
Yeah, he's like, hey, how's it going, buddy? I haven't checked in on you in a while. Only Vhagar is larger if they've stuck to book canon. So, and it looks like that's the case. That is a massive, massive beast with gnarly teeth. That's a kind of an ugly dragon.
Rude, Aziz. Ugly dragon.
Some of those dragons are very smooth faced and just even, like they've got
he's
balance,
got wrinkly in his old age.
Yeah, Vermithor is terrifying, but in a good way. Look at those teeth, man. Jeez, those are swords.
That's an attractive dragon if I ever saw one. Okay. Rude.
Look at that. So I'm very curious what this is all about. The song, I want to know the lyrics to the song he's singing. I want to know what the words are, what they mean. And I want to know why he's doing this. He's just checking in. He's okay. We're going to war. Let's check in on all the dragons. Like, all right, buddy, we might be needing you soon. Start thinking about it. Start getting ready for war.
I'm like, I feel like it has to be relevant that, like, as was brought up earlier, that Rhaenyra doesn't have a dragon. So, I feel like, again, especially with the dragon seed stuff that'll come up eventually, I just feel like they should bring this up more often. Like, hey, do you want to ride this dragon? Like.
Point.
I don't know.
Point. Yeah, Rhaenyra.
And they did introduce Aegon's bastards. The idea that there are Targaryen bastards peppered around the realm.
Dragon seed
seeds. 9. Dragon seeds.
Yeah.
Seeds of the dragon seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Another thing that I had meant to bring up when we were talking about the little Dragonstone meeting that's happening like on that parapet is like when that happened in episode 2, that like the sword drawing and everything got neutralized when there were 2 dragons on the other side. And I'm like, I don't think anyone on the auto team that has arrived here has a dragon.
They're not bringing any dragon with them, I don't think. Yeah.
In theory, we could have like Vermithor, Syrax, and Caraxes appear behind them on like the Dragonstone side to be like, yeah, stop fucking with us. we have more dragons than you.
Yeah, like, do you realize what you've gotten yourself into? It might be one of these mouths. That's what you might be getting into. So let's talk about the painted table. Talk about more preparations for war, and obviously this is them deciding what to do. They're like, well, we're going to war. Here, how are we going to do it? And boy, does that painted table look awesome. Yeah. So cool. I'll always shout out the painted table anytime we get to see it. It is super cool. Candle lit and everything. We really just need our own here in the office, don't we, Shea? We need to get one of those.
Love that. Would you like me to get you one for your future gift?
Yeah.
Can I spend $10,000 on that?
We don't have that.
Okay, then never mind. I was trying to get you to agree. No, I would love that.
If you can find a spare $10,000, then sure.
Okay, what if I find one for $1,000?
That would be worth it. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll find this. That's a little cheap. I think that would probably be a very expensive commission from someone. I would expect it to be $10,000.
I don't think we could get one for $1,000.
Yeah, I don't think I can get it for $1,000.
With the little like glowing amber details too.
Wow,
like,
they have like the candles. We didn't realize that that's why it was glowing before. Like that wasn't really clear to anyone.
It's lit from below.
Yeah,
kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's clever. Well done. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a painted table shot in our History of Westeros intro.
We do. We have long been fans of it's our favorite table. Favorite table of all time. Top 10 tables? It's number 1.
It's not my favorite table.
It's not?
No,
what's your favorite table?
There's someone who made a Westeros map like on Etsy that is a table. It is its own painted table, but it's like in full color and like etched and like carved in. It's like it's beautiful. It's more beautiful than the painted table to me. It is a different Westeros paint. It's a very similar concept, but that one's my favorite. So
I can't exactly object to that. It's just a different painted table.
I wanted to buy that one. That one cost like $2,000. I was like, I can't. But
yeah, that's expensive. It's a lot for a table.
That you can't even really eat on.
Yeah, you cannot eat it. You should not eat on that. Yeah, unless you're eating, I don't know, blood, fire and blood. Something a meal, like warmed. Jojen paste, can we have that? No.
So here Brandon Winslow's saying if we can find a huge 3D printer, he can model it for me.
Oh my goodness!
See, it's gonna happen. It'll happen. I won't have it. Aziz's birthday's in 1 month, so I can't have it for this birthday. Next birthday, maybe.
Yeah, start now.
Yeah, start now.
It's all falling
ready
into
in
place.
a year.
Okay, so they're making plans. This is when they're sitting around the painted table. This is when they come up with a lot of the ideas that we know are going to be very fateful. The decision to take Harrenhal, the decision to send envoys to
the Giants.
The Giants, yeah. To the Giants, yeah. The decision to send envoys that would have been helpful.
Book.
They should have gotten the Giants. Yeah, they really should have. No, the envoys to the Vale and to White Harbor and Winterfell, which if it's the same as Fire and Blood, that's all one trip. That's Jace's trip to those 3 places: the Vale, then White Harbor, and then Winterfell. And we even see in the trailer, there's one of the Kingsguard knights puts his hand down with like a piece on Winterfell, like boom. It's like, oh, which is a real exciting moment because Game of Thrones fans are like, yeah, when are the Starks going to get involved in this? And that was, it's coming. Winter is coming.
Is that, what did you say earlier that you thought that might be the final shot of the episode? is like the arrival to Winterfell.
I don't know if we'll see.
I think I may have thrown that out. I think we may have thrown that out as an idea, but I'm guessing no. I don't think we'll see that till beginning of season 2.
Yeah, well, just because because I think he has to. I think like technically they can move. He can stop wherever he wants. They can move around all that, but technically he stops in the Vale and White Harbor before Winterfell, and I don't think we're going to see the Vale and White Harbor. So that kind of stops it, but there is definitely they can move things around.
I can see them just excluding that. Just
I could see him.
Not bothering to mention the Vale in the
or just
I don't know. I think it makes sense to set up the Vale, but
reworking the order of operations. I don't know because just to your point, Aziz, like I think that Game of Thrones fans would get really excited again seeing Winterfell.
Yeah, you're right. It's
nowhere and in its now former glory than.
That's a good point.
The last time we saw
I bet it came up in the writer's room. Like, should they show like a shot of a dragon approaching Winterfell as one of the final moments of the season? That would be pretty cool. And apparently there's going to be a lot of dragons in this episode. And we've already seen Vermithor, who's not even going to be ridden. So, or at least not that we don't think. Maybe Rhaena will do that. That's a good idea about Rhaena. But anyway, that probably won't happen since Hard Hugh is going to ride her next year. Him next year, most likely. But we'll see about that. Anyway.
Oh, what a baby.
So she is a big baby.
Kid is. So there's a quote from Rhaenys who says, "Every man standing around the painted table urges her to plunge the realm into war," which, yep, they sure will, and they will most likely have their way. Rhaenys, that makes sense for Rhaenys to say, because from her perspective, she probably still thought there would be a chance for peace, which is part of why she didn't torch all the greens on stage there. Lord Celtigar? I guess it's Celtigar.
Yeah, it's Celtigar.
It is definitely Celtigar.
He's got the crabs.
He had the crabs. He had the crabs. Okay, we've got leeks, we've got red wings, and we've got crabs. We've got all the. Oh yeah, there's the crab. You can see. You're right. That is pretty hard to tell. But
yeah, but no, he's got notable crabs. Notable crabs. Visible crabs.
Visible crabs. Wow, that's a problem. The Maester should see to that.
But yeah, he's about to be like, "Hey, remember me? I'm the other Valyrian house that y'all never talk to or marry into. What's up with that, Velaryon?"
Yeah, Corlys is always saying we're the only house with Valyrian blood. Well, we're right here. We've got an island too. Like we even have, geez, man, we have a Valyrian steel axe, bro. We got a horn that summons krakens. We're gonna send that. How would your Valyrian fleets look after we blow that horn around your fleets, Lord Corlys? But no, I don't think we're getting the horn. But that would.
Can you imagine?
That'd be like actually, Kraken's just bursting forth. Like what?
Remember when Sam found a horn in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, and it just nothing.
And then
happened.
We just never talked about it.
I do remember that. He just, well, it doesn't work. We don't need to talk about this again. Yeah. And there's another line. I guess this is also Lord Celtigar. He urges a siege of the Red Keep, and he says, "Your cause holds a power that has not been seen since the days of old Valyria." I assume that's him. I don't exactly know what he's talking about, but I mean, dragons I think it's just that.
I think it's just the number of dragons that they have as opposed to the greens at this point, right? Yeah. Like in the show, we've got 4 dragons on the green side so far.
The greens have Vhagar and Dreamfire.
And it's like 6 or 7 on the blacks.
Yeah,
I think
if we're counting the unwritten ones, which we should at this point,
right.
Although they maybe don't know which ones they can count or not, like whether they can count Sheepstealer or not. We know that they'll get him or her rather, but they may not.
That's just kind of what I assumed he was talking about. Yeah, at that point. Like you can just overpower them right now with all your dragons.
Yeah, it's kind of like Olenna being like, Dany, just go dragon, just be a dragon, you know. But of course, Dany didn't have Vhagar to worry about. Not quite the same calculation here. So, so that's a pretty big, important deal there. So we wonder how that's going to play, what she's going to decide, and how that will play out. And will we hear about Corlys? I really wonder about this. Is there going to be any news or see him? I'm guessing we won't see him. I'm guessing no.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't think we'll see him, but I feel like. I mean, like, I guess if Rhaenys just goes right to Dragonstone, and, like, do we have room for them to bring up Corlys?
She could get word.
I kind of was expecting to see him again, honestly.
That would be kind of cool if he shows up, you know?
They said in episode 9, or in episode 8, was when
the beginning.
news was
yeah.
that he was sick, right? And didn't they say like his ship should be here in 3 days?
3 days. It's definitely been 3 days since then.
It's
yeah.
been 3 days.
yeah.
So like, I think he's there, but yeah, they didn't show him at all in the teaser.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
It's like, yeah, is it going to be left as a cliffhanger? Maybe like he's still, maybe he's going to die. Because, of course, when he gets active again, when Jace names him Hand of the King. And that's presumably just next season. So that'll just be bringing him in, that maybe that's when they reintroduce him. But it would be cool to have him like walk on like, I'm back, kind of a montage of things. Jace arrives at Winterfell, the sea snake, climbs out of his bed. A couple other things happen, maybe.
I mean, like, I guess I could see also that like Rhaenys goes and gives them this message, and then she says, okay, I'm going to Driftmark now to check on my husband. And then she goes and we see like a last scene where it's like him waking up, like maybe he doesn't even talk, and it's just like one of those montages like how they did for the Green Council episode where we just see like Aemond sitting alone, like maybe something like that where we see, okay, the sea snake's alive and awake.
Yeah, he gives a thumbs up. I'm ready to wait. Snakes don't have thumbs. That won't work. Okay.
A tail rattle.
Yeah, he rattles. I'm ready, baby. Get me back into action. So that could be very interesting. And there's another line, speaking of getting back to the dragons part, there's been a line that was like one of the first lines we heard in any trailer at all, like back in like June or May. Yeah, I think May, when Damon is like, gods, kings, fire, blood, and he also said, dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. So this all feels like it could be part of that same conversation of your cause holds a power that has not been seen since old Valyria. But the whole dream thing, we could finally maybe get Rhaenyra being like, oh, here's another reason why we need to take the throne. Let me tell you what my dad told me this one day, about this whole prophecy, Aegon stuff. So like somehow dreams, like Damon bringing up dreams, it kind of implies that this conversation is going to happen. What do you think about that, Kim?
Yeah, I would see. I've been waiting for Rhaenyra to feel compelled to tell one other person about this burden that has been set upon her. Because even in that, when she was pleading with Viserys, it like just the two of them and kind of crying and saying like, you told me this thing isn't true. And the fact that Damon wasn't there, I was like, she really has just talked to no one but her dad about this. Yeah. And so I think it would make sense for Damon to be one of the people that she tells. I don't know. I also think the scene in episode 9 where Aegon gets the dagger, and I was like, oh, okay, that's why they made the dagger be like a physical piece of evidence about this prophecy, is because now if Rhaenyra tells anyone, it's like, oh, and by the way, that dagger sitting on Aegon's hip,
the proof,
will validate everything that I'm saying right here. If we can only get close enough and chuck it in the fire for a little bit, like, you will see what I'm talking about. Type of thing.
I mean,
so.
That is where, for me, it a little bit breaks down the idea that, like, I feel like this is dire enough circumstances that if I were Rhaenyra, I would jot off a letter to Alicent and say some version of, hey, this is a big deal. The
hold
proof
the dagger under the fire.
She has the proof. Like, she has a way to prove it to Alicent. And so, like, I really, the fact that they, like, if they have a conversation and Alicent says, hey, my dad said, I'm not my dad, Viserys, your dad said this thing, then Rhaenyra has two answers. One is, hey, there's this prophecy. This is what he was talking about. And two, like, also, I have a son named Aegon too. What are you thinking? But like, just in general, like, it makes me think that obviously that's never going to happen. Like, we know it's not just going to get worked out. So there has to be a reason they aren't able to just work it out. And I guess what I've landed on is that Rhaenyra really it was imported upon Rhaenyra that secrecy is very important with this, as much as I don't think it needs to be so secret.
Yeah.
But I do expect to see Rhaenyra tell Jace and Damon, because I kind of just expect Jace to know this when he goes to Winterfell, is where it comes from for me.
Right. That would make more sense, that she has to now that the line of succession has become a matter of urgency. Yeah. And it's not that he's now second in line based on Viserys's wishes. It's that he's now first in line. Like, now's the time for her to pass that information along. Like, the sort of like two people have to know at all times idea. So yeah, I think Jace would make a lot of sense too. And yeah, the Alicent thing, that's what I was like kind of had in mind when I was watching episode 9 was like, I think that Alicent's decision to not go to Rhaenyra and instead to crown Aegon first and then reach out to Rhaenyra is like only to her detriment, right? Because if she truly wanted to break from her being a puppet of the patriarchy and her father and all this stuff, like the real break would have been getting to Rhaenyra and having a conversation with her in which all of this could be theoretically cleared up. But she didn't. She was still doing the thing that Rhaenys, I think, accurately accused her of, which is just trying to make a window in her prison and have control within the system that's happening.
Well said.
And that is only to her detriment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. Yeah, it's super interesting. I'm very curious how they're going to play this out. I think that it seems almost automatic that she's going to tell Jace, especially with him going north and the way that sets so many things up. She's like, "Oh, north, yes. Well, actually, my father said something about the north."
Right, Starks might be important to the overall goal of not letting some doom from the north.
And it just imparts like the importance of their cause too. It's like, well, Jace seems like he's a very serious kid already, but he maybe doesn't need extra motivation, but that could be part of it. It's like, well, here's another reason why you must succeed. Sorry to put all this pressure on you, kid, but we really need this. The whole everything, the whole realm needs this.
And he's about the age that she was when Viserys told her.
That is very true. You're right. Wow, yeah, great point. Yeah.
Like 15,
around 15, 16-ish, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would make sense for her to think, well, I was around this age, and her to tell him somewhat similarly to how she was told. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even in a similar place, like they'll go to some shriny type area in Dragonstone.
Yeah. The caves.
I know. Like, we know it's something I'm really looking forward to in A Song of Ice and Fire. Like Davos and Salladhor Saan, of all people, discussed that Melisandre has taken Stannis down into the deep, dark recesses of Dragonstone, where inside the volcano and all this. And I'm like, let's see that someday. Like maybe Dany and Tyrion will go in there or something. So we got
Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, if they really wanted to stick to the canon that Game of Thrones established, it's like, how would no one on Dragonstone at this point in time have discovered all those weird drawings and ominous things inside the caves? But
I guess they just don't care. They're like, it's cool.
Maybe that cave didn't exist until 100 years later.
Maybe it's just maybe it's always occupied by dragons, so they have a hard time just and Casanova.
Yeah, Casanova back.
There he is.
What are his nicknames?
We call him Nova, Cass, Lil Nova.
He looks so soft.
He is. He's a big boy, but Casanova. We didn't name him, but I like his name. He is a lover, so it works out.
It's a good name.
He is the brother of Xerxes.
We fostered some cats, and so they were like already named, and then we didn't rename them. So
we decided to keep them instead of.
Yeah, we couldn't separate two brothers. We were like, well, we couldn't separate them from us either. Yeah, I will keep them. I learned I'll never foster a cat that I'm not prepared to adopt.
I honestly don't think I could. Yeah. We adopted our cats are sisters. They were kittens from the same litter. But the shelter had named them Bubbles and Glowing.
Oh,
and I was like,
glowing.
I was like, I don't think having like a verb for a name.
No, I don't love that.
Flows very well.
I don't love that.
Unless it's purring.
Now they're
purring.
Purring. No, now they're Lily and Zelda.
So there's a shot from the trailer where 3 dragons are leaving Dragonstone. This is probably Jace going north, Luke going for Storm's End, and Damon going for Harrenhal. Those would be the 3. I'm not really sure what else it could be. Those 3 are all from Fire and Blood. Pretty straightforward. So Damon heading for Harrenhal. That's another possible like montage ending style. We could get Jace going to Winterfell. Maybe we'll definitely get Luke going to Storm's End. And Damon for Harrenhal. We might get him like landing, or we just see it in the distance, or just show that there's a lot of ways they could play that out.
Yeah.
And that will probably be how things are left at Dragonstone. Like the dragons will leave, and then, well, no, maybe not. Maybe we have to see the reaction. You think we're going to see the reaction to Luke's death on the black side or the green side?
I think from Rhaenyra. I don't think we'll see like Jace finding out or a number of other people. Like I think there's people finding out, like Rhaena necessarily. Like there's lots of reactions I don't think we'll see. What about you? But I think we'll see Rhaenyra.
Actually, this could be what triggers the stillbirth. Finding out about Luke's death instead of the throne seizure and her father's death. That would be, because that would also allow a little more time to pass.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, what do you think in general?
I don't know. I think if they're not going to make that like the cliffhanger ending or something like that, then yeah, it would make sense to see at least one reaction to it or one person knowing. I'm also curious, like, obviously if we're getting Aemond, I wonder how much time we're going to spend with the Greens in this episode, given that the last episode was all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of expected this episode to be 100% the black side, but now that we know that Aemond is in the mix, it's like, are we going to see him being ordered there, or is it just going to be like, oh, he just happens to...
that would,
I feel like it's going to be a surprise.
That it will essentially be all the black side. It's just that Aemond comes into contact with Luke with the black side, but we're not going to see it from Aemond's perspective as he gets sent and arrives. That's my thought, but that was my assumption as well.
So given that, I would expect to see some reaction from the assumed tragedy that we think is going to unfold there.
Yeah, it would be a lot to wait on that for next season. Yeah, I think the reaction makes more sense than not.
Notably about these dragons, we get Christina K, who says she thinks that's Meleys, not Caraxes in the shot. That would be the third dragon that we see going out right now.
Neck size. And all that.
Neck size. I agree. Look at the crown. I zoomed way in. You can see the crown. It's definitely Meleys, which makes sense. So that would be Melee. That would be Rhaenys leaving to go to Driftmark to see Corlys. Exactly. So maybe it makes it even more likely that we will see her reunited with.
So there could be a fourth dragon in the shot, or maybe Damon hasn't left for Harrenhal yet.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to have some more scenes behind, or maybe they want to keep Damon there to react to Luke's death first. Because that does happen. Like Damon is there. Like Damon, no, that's not true. No, Damon reacts to Luke's death at Harrenhal in Fire and Blood. He sends a letter. He's like, Lucerys shall be avenged, a son for a son. Yeah. And then he contacts Mazzaria and Blood.
I can see them doing a piece of the dragon has washed up on a beach somewhere, and that's how someone finds it, right?
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah, and that would be. Just some random fisherman, like, because they have that. There's that tale in Fire and Blood where some fisherman's daughter finds Luke and nurses him back to health, and he just like lives. His memory's been wiped. Yeah, it's Laenor. It's kind of like Laenor's story. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, it is. What if they give him a Laenor?
Yeah, they get Luke and Laenor. Yeah. That's where he turns out. He washes up at Laenor's house. Like, oh hey, what's up?
There's a growing collection of mysterious Targaryen Valyrian men in Essos.
Some hidden community, just like a small island community just off the coast of.
They're gonna unionize in season 2. Yeah. We've been wronged.
So we get our first shot of Lord Boros. Lord Boromund has since passed, and Lord Boros from Fire and Blood is very different than his father. It says Lord Boromund was still as stone, and Lord Boros is like a storm, changeable and unpredictable. And in the book, when the war breaks out, he gets, he's mad at Rhaenyra for how she treats him like a lapdog, or like, oh, I'm not just the Lord of Storm's End is not someone you can just call to heal whenever you want. And he's like, but instead he's just like, you know what? I'm going to go fight the Vulture King in Dorne instead of getting involved in this civil war. It's like, what? It's kind of odd. He's like, yeah, you can't call me a coward. I'm going off to go fight, but I'm not fighting dragons. I'm fighting Dornishmen, which is still, difficult, but it is kind of a strange, funny thing to be doing. Like, I'd just rather go down here. His daughter. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just made the mistake of looking at Twitter for a second.
Oh God!
Not a mistake, but as we've been doing this chat, it looks like House of the Dragon tweeted like one more sleep, till the premiere. But they chose to highlight sea smoke, and I'm like,
what?
Are we bringing sea smoke back into the conversation? Because that was with the Laenor switch. Like that was kind of an open-ended question, right? Like if Laenor isn't, I had people asking me that, like if Laenor isn't really dead, then what's going on with sea smoke, or like can sea smoke be bonded to another person or whatever? And I was like, I have no idea what they're going to do with that in the show. So the fact that the official Twitter account is like reminding people that sea smoke was a dragon, I'm like, is that relevant?
That's a curveball. What do they mean by that? Yeah.
What if that's Rhaena's?
Well,
that could be Rhaena's. We'll just see. Like, they have the leeway. Like, technically, we don't know that a dragon could never
bond with two riders. It's just never happened. But, like, there's never been a thing that's been like, this is impossible and could never happen. To be clear, everyone, like, it's just unlikely.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, sorry. Brief interlude.
That's
in the Storm's End.
Very interesting. Yeah, I wonder about that. So the daughters of Lord Boros are quite important. The Four Storms are their nicknames. Cassandra, Maris, Ellen, and Floris. Cassandra is the one who will eventually be betrothed to Aegon II, but they will, of course, be unable to consummate because Aegon will have, as
Aegon
I said way
III.
back, Aegon's going to make his father Viserys look like a healthy man
Aegon,
in the long run with his severe injuries. Maris is supposedly the one who provokes Aemond. Which is not the one that betroths him. So Aemond is either going to be betrothed to Ellen or Floris. The Fire and Blood never tells us. It tells us that we don't know, which it was. It doesn't just forget. It's like it just specifically doesn't know. And we are
obviously then that's been set up in the most recent episode with Tyland when he goes, "Oh, a Storm's End should be addressed. They have marriageable brides," and Alicent is like, "Let's move past that."
Yeah, like we'll come back to that. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
And the book readers were like, will we?
Yeah. And they also mentioned Tully and Tyrell, which was interesting. By the way, Kim, you mentioned a minute ago, like you mentioned if you want to be a puppet. Well, that's where you need to go to be a puppet is House Tully in this era. Where we have Grover, and Kermit, and Elmo, and Oscar. Yeah, so that's
they just never
real puppets.
They never betrothed Daron to anyone, do they?
Daron is never betrothed. No, I don't think so.
He's the youngest.
Yeah,
right?
he's the youngest, so like there's a little bit of an out there, but I do feel like making those betrothals and marriage connections is very important right now. So it's just weird to not use a token. Like if you can take
even mentioned that there's
that's even weirder. In terms of things I can critique about the show, the fact that they have not even said a single sentence about this kid is not great. Yeah, for sure.
Daron, I wonder if they would have married Daron to, if the Greens had won, they would have maybe married Daron to Jaehaera.
Oh
Another uncle niece marriage.
An uncle married to the niece of a sister and brother.
Yeah.
Just making more. I saw someone once say, like, or I'm pretty sure it was a tweet, or maybe it was a TikTok comment that was like, the Targaryen family tree is a bush.
Yeah.
it's just one big round bush of branches.
It's kudzu. You never know where it's going to go, but it's not going to stop. Yeah, so we also apparently are going to get Aemond removing the eye patch to show the sapphire. So there's like the trailer shows him pulling it off. We don't get the end of that sequence. It's just he grabs it and starts removing it. So that could be very interesting. I'm curious what they're going to do with that. I
felt
go ahead.
A little bit badly because like the Cast of Kings pod that we do is supposed to be, or it is like no spoilers for the books or for like future events or whatever. So I'm usually very careful to like not, I don't know, hint at things too much in advance. But then last episode when the credits changed again and they had a sapphire as like Aemon's thing, and so I was like, oh, the reason why it's a sapphire is because in the book it says that like sometimes he puts a sapphire in his eye, and then I was like, oh shit, they're actually doing that, and now I just like
that's a spoiler.
I guess spoiled that reveal. But like I'm like, why wouldn't you have saved that sigil change for the episode? Same with Darren, right? Like they haven't mentioned Darren once in the show, but there's a fourth bloodline off of
the little wine glass.
So
and he's a cupbearer at this point, supposedly, so that makes sense.
In Hightower.
Yeah. To Hobert, which is, I guess, is a small change from Ormond, but I think that they're one of the few examples of the law of conservation of characters.
We don't technically know that Ormond isn't there and exists, and he is to Hobert.
Well, they changed him if they did, because Ormond is Lord. It's definitely Lord Hobert.
Yo, I just mean that, like, technically time has passed. We don't know that Hobert hasn't died and it's now Ormond.
Right, but Hobert is in... That would be a weird switch because Hobert is one of the caltrops.
Okay, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, it would be weird to completely remove him. I guess you're right.
Yeah, it would have just... Why not just keep Ormond and Hobert
I had been kind of assuming that there was another Hobert, I guess. That, like, that they had named, like, that there was a second generation this whole time. I hadn't been assuming that was the same person. just because he was kind of older. I don't know. That would have been my thought.
Well, the Hobart in Fire and Blood is like in charge of the baggage train, so he is kind of an older guy. He's like, and he's not supposed to be like a warrior. He's like, well, his sword. No one ever feared his sword, but his wine cup.
Oh yeah, I guess my interpretation had just been that was like a lesser Hightower and not ever the Lord Hightower.
He wasn't. That's why it's weird that they made the show version Lord Hobart.
Okay.
That's why it implies that Aemond is gone.
Okay.
Because they just got rid of him. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think with since we were in the middle of like Storm's End stuff, I do like I haven't really had an issue with all the recastings and like the jump forwards and stuff. Like I've been able to orient myself at the start of every episode, but like if they changed too many of those lords who we saw in the pilot bending the knee, like I think that then you're gonna continue to maybe lose show only watchers, because it's like it's a lot easier to just do a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Like I know Tyland mentioned like that was 20 years ago. People have died. Like, yes, some people, but I think that they should limit the number of people who did once swear loyalty to Rhaenyra and are now going back on that oath because they just want Aegon to be king type of thing. So it was Hobart, right? In the Hobart?
Yeah.
Hobart is such a nicer way to say it.
We've been having fun saying that. Yeah, he's very French to us.
But I don't know. He was the one in that pilot episode scene, right?
Yeah, he's the one pressuring Otto that says, "We stand with you." He's hail, hail, the conqueror, babe.
Yeah, he's the one, the propagandist man.
I mean, even in the pilot, isn't he the one who, representing Hightower, bends the knee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Swears obeisance to
with the Stark and the Baratheon. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So, like, if we're going to eventually, the idea is that we're going to see which one of those lords sticks to that oath versus not. I think that they should minimize how
that's a
many
good point,
keeping him. Yeah,
they're definitely swapping out the Stark, and they're definitely swapping out the Baratheon, as we see here. We've seen him swapped out.
Swapped, yeah.
So you're right. That's a good point. And Corlys is one of the others. We only see 4, 5, or 6 lords bend the knee. I think it's Stark, Baratheon, Velaryon, and Hightower, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But I think that might be it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, yeah, I'm really going back to the daughters for a minute. I'm really curious how they handle that, because they're pretty important. I mean, maybe Ellen and Floris don't do a whole lot, but Cassandra and Maris are pretty important, especially like in the aftermath. And the name Cassandra always makes you think of, Cassandra from the Trojan War, the one who was basically Helena, the one that has prophecy and no one listens to her. She's cursed by, I guess, Apollo to have no one listen to her. So that's pretty cool. Or not. It's very tragic, actually.
Everything's tragic in this show.
Yeah, right, yeah. Even when it's cool, it's tragic. Like the shot of Vhagar in this trailer just being like taller than Storm's End's drum tower is like, oh my god! Someone in I think it was in our Discord or maybe Facebook said it was like a Lovecraftian Godzilla. I was like, ooh, that's a great term. Yeah, it is like a Lovecraftian Godzilla. Like, wow. Yeah. There you go. So there's a huge storm. Yeah, there it is. Good lord. That is a gigantic dragon with the flag and everything. That flag should be red because that's a real red flag right there. Ew. So the storm should be raging. Vhagar and Arax, the sad and the epic. You know who's in this scene in Fire and Blood? Sitting in the hall while all this goes down, while Aemond and Luke are yelling at each other, and Maris is provoking Aemond, and Boros is doing whatever he's doing. Byron Swan is supposedly just chilling there watching this go down. Byron Swan is the one who tries Serwyn of the Mirror Shields trick. On which dragon? The sources disagree. There's like 3 or 4. And recall, folks, this is even brought up in A Dance with Dragons. Tyrion and Halden Halfmaester have this conversation where Tyrion one-ups Halden's dragon knowledge. And Halden's like, well, fine, be that way. But we did a whole episode on Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, kind of based on this. It's really cool. So this thing, it's because it's like it starts this whole conversation about mirror images, about dragons and mirroring of each other. Eric and Ark, mirror images, one sent to kill a dragon, the other stops him, right? Or they fight each other. Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, of course, uses the reflection of the dragon to make the dragon think it's itself. It's a play on Medusa's story from Greek myth. Here we come back to Greek myth so quickly. All again. And this comes up again with Damon and Aemond are kind of like mirror images of each other from different generations. There's so many of these mirroring examples. So I love that they spread it beyond just the Targaryens and the dragons. We have this character who... do we think Byron Swan will be included in? I mean, obviously, they don't have to include him in this scene to use him later, but I don't know. This could be a thing that gets cut entirely, you know?
Yeah. Or maybe they're just... Honestly, something that I can't stop thinking about is that I'm almost positive that like Ryan Condal and the showrunning team couldn't have been certain that they would definitely get a season 2 of this show.
Yeah.
So like the Darren omission and like all these other things I think were made with like the hope that they'll get to some of the more nitty gritty once they have everybody in and committed on a first season, but that like they were really trying to like, I don't know, make as contained of a story as possible.
Yeah. Because
they didn't know how we would react. And I didn't know how, like, you know, nobody knew how this would feel. And great, it feels good, but we didn't know that. It could have felt really, really bad and not gone the way that HBO wanted it to.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things they would have done differently if they had been sure it would have been the successful. Like, okay, we're going to guarantee you 30 million views an episode. Then they would have also had more budget. Because, like, the budget they're operating on right now, as big as it is, it's a huge budget. I mean, it's nowhere near, like, Rings of Power sized, but it's big. Yeah. They could not do season 2 on this budget. There's way, like, you can tell by how they're stinting a lot of dragon scenes and how many they're going to need to have. It's battles and, like, action, which is very little of here. So, well, we are going to get some in this episode, but yeah. So, like, they need to have prove that the bigger budget is justified. Like, HBO's purse strings is like, okay, you guys are doing it. We're going to give you the money, but they needed to, like, earn that money with this season.
Yeah.
Looks like they did. Good job, show. I think those purse strings are going to open. It still probably won't be Rings of Power size, but but they don't have to spend $250 million on rights. So, you know.
Right. They already got those years ago.
Yeah. And they didn't cost that much.
Now, I am dying to know that now that this has been a big success, if we're going to be getting an announcement for another show project, like, you know, we've been talking about it, that it just makes sense to me that if HBO's going to announce it, they would announce it around the finale when the hype is high, that they would say, hey, if you liked this, we're also making... I don't know. Anyways, so I have high hopes that maybe this month we'll hear about... the next project that's greenlit.
Yeah. Or at least a pilot.
Yeah.
Something like a pilot for one of them getting greenlit. Because right now everything else is just in development.
Yeah, it's just it's just in development. And I kind of feel like their best bet is to not do the pilot route and to do a straight to series order. But like they just need to have some faith in their creators. But you know, we'll see.
What
it worked for them here.
Yeah, you're right. You were
very
correct.
much did. What is your maybe top pick or top 2 picks for the successor show? Like, just nothing to do with likelihood of actually being made. Like,
what you want.
Yeah, what do you want to see?
I do genuinely want Robert's Rebellion.
Cool.
If we're going, if we get the actual Lyanna Rhaegar details, like, that is probably right now the biggest character gap for me across all these stories, is like that feels so important, and yet I still don't feel like I know enough about what happened or like why everything unfolded that way, and like why it should be very important that they were Jon Snow's parents. Like, I don't know, that I think for me, or surprise me like you did with this, right? Where like I didn't know, like I knew that we were getting the Dance of Dragons. I knew that there's a lot of potential there, but I wasn't really sure how it would feel. And I've been very surprised by how well they've done all the characterizations and sort of like little tweaks and surprises. So either surprise me or give me exactly what I want, which is like an in-depth look at. Yeah, I don't know. What about you two?
Well, we heard a rumor they might do that, but it wouldn't be Robert's Rebellion specifically. They would start farther back.
Yeah, it would be about Aerys.
It'd be Aerys, because Aerys' life, like, even though Aerys might seem like an odd one to frame it around, he lives through Summerhall and then the rebellion. So like you get both of those things. You get the end of Aegon the Fifth's reign. You get maybe even the Ninepenny Kings. And
this would be part of House of the Dragon. This would be like like after they do Aegon's conquest, that they like, this is House of the Dragon will be like an anthology style show where you get 3 seasons per concept, maybe once, depends, but this would be like our season 6 of House of the Dragon would be like Aerys or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that could be cool. And if they like kind of hand it off to a different showrunner or like a different writing team for each iteration to kind of keep it feeling fresh, but still in the same universe. Could be fun.
You know what's funny is that Aegon, we're talking about how bad Aegon the Second is and how he's basically Aegon the Unworthy if Aegon the Unworthy hadn't been severely injured, right? Because he was certainly having bastards all over the place, drinking and doing whatever he wanted. It's just kind of funny to think about the fact that Aegon the Unworthy is Damon and Rhaenyra's grandson. And then one of those grandchildren is the mother and father of Damon Blackfire.
So you didn't answer those. Which one are you most excited for? Huh? I'll say mine too, and a little teaser as well. If you need time to think, I can talk.
Well, you can go ahead. I think people know yours already.
Yeah, mine is definitely Nymeria, but I will say that I have found out about other projects that are in development that are not announced, that are secret. And one of them is up there with Nymeria for me for the one that I'm most excited for. So a little teaser. You can think about what a Shea would like. There's that. A very surprising topic, all that. So there's more than a couple of shows that are not announced that are in development, in the process of being talked about. Yeah, exactly. But still Nymeria is number one for me. But it's close. Like the one I like second most is close. Like I really like the concept. So we'll see.
Nymeria might be my top pick as well, but
good. That's correct, Aziz. I need all of your weight because I know that's how we'll get it made.
It has some things on the sea snake, which are kind of very similar-ish shows. I'm very doubtful that they'll both get made because they both have so much exploration going on. They both have that.
The sea snake has the good part that it has Bruno Heller working on it, who did Rome, and he's very good. So I wouldn't be dissatisfied to get that show either. It's really that I want to see the whole world of A Song of Ice and Fire. You see this big map behind us, the known world map. I would like to leave Westeros.
Nymeria gives us the fall of Valyria and the Rhaenyra together, so we'd actually get to see like a season one that included dragons, which would be cool. And then I just think the locations it would go to are a little more interesting. Like Sothorios is like woo, and seeing the Rhoyne itself, like seeing the fall of this amazing what they had and what they lost. Like seeing the fall of the Rhaenyra would be really spectacular. I would totally take the sea snake though. Give me that too. I'll tell you if we get that instead. Like, all sorts of cool locations. There's probably a larger variety of locations on the sea snake show. That's the there'd be quality, but there'd be more quantity.
That's the appeal.
Beyond that, one of the maybe rumored shows where they look at things from lower-born, common-born people's perspectives.
Yeah, that's the spear carriers show or whatever.
Show. Yeah, that would be neat. Or just a comedy. Give us a comedy like that show Plebs, but set in King's Landing.
Yeah, give us like Norsemen or Plebs or one of those, like, and Our Flag Means Death. Just the historical comedies are really blowing up in general right now. So I feel like in world that you really got me right there. That is what I've been wanting for, but I know that that's the sort of thing that they can't do until they build up to it.
Give us
Marvel is just now getting in there with She-Hulk, and even with the beginning of WandaVision. Like Marvel is starting to genre bend a little bit more, but still not as much as I think they should lean into. Like make it be a full legal comedy, etc.
I could also. This just popped in my head. I was like, what are like the comedy? What are the sources of comedy that they've already used in these adaptations? And I think like the plays, like following like an actor's troupe who like they're not self-serious the way that many of the other characters are, but like it's still related somehow to like the political goings on and the small folk, and like I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. The actors troupe would be a great source of comedy and allow them to play with a lot of different things.
Because famous people could come be in the audience. Right? Like
you could have the cameo, like let's say it's set during House of the Dragon or whatever. Then you could have the the actual
put a date.
Exactly.
Who's that in the murder cowl back there? Is that blonde hair I see you poking out? Something I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about, it reminded me because we just talked about the sea snake again, is this a reason the sea snake might be included even if he's not on screen in this episode, is that one of the moves they make right away, as soon as the Green's seizure of the throne is made aware to Rhaenyra, they send all the ships out and close the gullet. They shut down King's Landing right away with their ships. They freeze trade almost immediately. So that isn't like a super important thing to portray right away. Like it's like, oh, if they don't do that, they've screwed up badly. They could just do that at the beginning of next season if they wanted to. But it is something that they could say or talk about. They're planning to do.
Again, that would be payoff for the pilot episode scene where Corlys says like they could, if the Stepstones isn't kept under control, they could cut off our trade and choke out.
Yeah, like, or I could do that.
And it's like, or I could do that myself later, 20 years later.
Yeah. And we saw their huge fleet descending on King's Landing for the wedding, which was like, look at the size of this thing. Like these ships, these are not Euron's ships. These are not Iron Fleet. These are a higher class, wealthier, more equipped, more men. Yeah, this level of Navy doesn't exist in the Game of Thrones era.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's pretty important. Stubby-Wan Kenobi says, I found 2 painted table replicas for $28,000. Can't find anything realistic for cheaper.
So,
woo! Yeah, okay. we shan't be getting one of those.
Yeah, let's times my estimate by 3.
Yeah,
but no, I am going to investigate how much it would be to print something. It's percolating. Like, I've got a year until your next birthday, so I'll think about it.
Yeah. Well, so anything in particular you're looking forward to in this episode? Are you dreading Luke and Aemond?
She's excited.
You can't wait for Luke to die.
She's like
I'm not. I am curious how emotionally affecting it will be, given that like I'm already kind of braced for it. And we haven't spent a ton of time with Luke as a kid, but I keep seeing that. I want to like make a little gif of that, of him like screaming in the Driftmark episode when Alicent started charging with the dagger, and there's like one shot where he's just like, just terrified, and like Rhaenyra kind of like puts herself in front of him, and I'm just like, he's just a boy. That starfish in Finding Nemo,
Yeah.
When Nemo's doing something and the starfish is like, he's just a boy, don't make it. That's all I keep hearing when I'm seeing like that shot of Luke like running back to his dragon to try and like get home to mom, and that's not gonna happen. So that'll be really sad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to see what the final note is that they decide to leave it on, because Dany birthing the dragons in Game of Thrones was such a like emotional high.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we going here for an emotional high, or are we really staying with the tragedy of it all?
Oh yeah, good point.
Going with a gut punch, because I don't know.
That's another argument for Winterfell being one of the final moments, because that's uplifting, even though it's actually setting up more tragedy. It's uplifting.
Right. If you want to really make us grieve with Rhaenyra and everything that's going on, and then lift us up at the end, it would be like, hey, we're getting the Starks in the game, like excitement for fans, versus like, oh, this is just bleak and we're leaving you on, I don't know, Jon Snow getting stabbed in season 5. Like,
yeah, that was a weird off season, wasn't it? The Jon Snow stabbing one. Like, even for Kit Harington hated it, right?
Yeah, right. It's painful. All those interviews.
Yeah.
That is when like we kind of started talking at the start of the episode about the leaks, because the 3 of us have been avoiding this episode leak, but that I remember being like, that was when the tolerance for not knowing everything that was about to happen like went through the roof, or it was destroyed basically, right? Like everybody became so obsessed with knowing what happened to Jon Snow next that it was like, all bets are off. We're doing drone sneak footage of filming. We're doing Zoom like
the cop that pulled him over was like, I'll let you go if you tell me if you're still alive. Apparently that happened. Like,
didn't like Obama even ask?
Really? I didn't hear about that.
Weiss or something, or like, I don't know.
Because you can't. It's not like you can go to the book. Like the book doesn't tell us either. Like it's a cliffhanger there too. Yeah, I mean, we have our, obviously we're like, okay, yeah, he's not going to die. But like, what are we going to convince people of that? Like, no.
Yeah, I will never forget that shot that leaked. It was like Daily Mail or something got it, of them filming Battle of the Bastards. And Kit Harington was clearly standing there wearing Stark armor with like his little hair in a bun. And I was like, Cool.
Philip sends a super chat, says, what A Song of Ice and Fire book would you want the most besides the main books, Fire and Blood 2 and Dunk and Egg? So some
Caution
sort of
for young girls.
A Caution for Young Girl. Oh,
That's
that was
mine.
quick.
The Corianne Wild book. That's what I want.
I'll take the Jade Compendium or Signs and Portents.
Oh, yeah. Be good. Oh, yeah, I know. I had my answer off right quick.
Ooh, Sefton Barth's book would be a good one, too.
I
don't know.
I would take that book about Nymeria that they were reading in House of the Dragon that Rhaenyra took the page out of. I'll take that book too.
Yeah. The actual Nymeria.
I want any of the books that Sam took out of
Oh, yeah. Whatever was worth keeping in the secret locked area, we want. If they locked it up, we want to see it. Yeah. Great call. Great call, yes.
I want the book that had a description of the Valyrian dagger.
Yes.
To be like,
yes.
Who wrote this book and made an illustration and didn't stick that blade in fire?
Yeah, did the book not say stick this thing?
I mean, do you check everything by putting it in fire before you write about it?
I'm going to now.
Okay. If I've seen Lord of the Rings,
put the microphone into the fire.
Before you listen to this episode, folks, make sure to hold it over the fire for a secret message. For bonus content, hold this episode over the fire. Yeah.
Or someone in the comments I think just said the mushroom comment. The Daenerys' book, but I was just thinking too that the histories that Jorah gives Dany at her wedding night would also be cool. Like, what is this history that Dany absorbed first? Maybe it wouldn't have just been Fire and Blood. It would have been more than that. It would have been like all of the houses and more.
Yeah, he also said songs. Like he said songs and stories, so there would have been it was like 3 books together.
I guess I have my second answer then. I also want, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, the story of House Martell. I would like a similar Fire and Blood book, but just to go over their whole reign. That would be my second pick.
Or the lesser known propaganda version, Bowed, Bent, Broken.
Written by House Tyrell and House Baratheon together. They worked on it.
Joint effort, yes. Those weak Dornish is what it's,
Just speaking of books, and when you mentioned Greek myth earlier, Aziz, I thought of this, but I've been re-listening to Cersei by Madeline Miller.
I have read that book. It's so good.
It's so good, and I think it's exactly what House of the Dragon has done successfully, which is like take a known mythology or story and
personalize it,
but personalize it from the point of view of a woman character who was like not given any depth or humanity in the oral history of this thing, and put it all from her perspective and kind of like correct the record about the relationship with Odysseus or like what her motivations were. And I think it's a really cool approach to any sort of like big mythological fantasy storytelling, is like this adjusting the bias in the direction of the people who have typically been underrepresented as like deep, complex characters in this genre.
So you're probably aware that they're considering they optioned that for TV, HBO, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Someone's working on a limited series or something.
That's
right?
awesome. Yeah. No, I've never read a book that writes loneliness better than that book, which of course is yes, it is a sad book, but also it's not all sad. But
I find it so inspiring. About well,
it's also how you deal with loneliness, right? That's part of it. Maybe that's why it's inspiring to you. Maybe
it's how you deal with loneliness, but it's like a really close read of what it means to be a human and why somebody would want to be mortal as opposed to immortal, and like the suffering and consequences that come with that, but also the joy and like love and community or like connection with other people. Same with Song of Achilles. She did Madeline Miller did the same thing with Song of Achilles, right? Which is like add an entirely different context and message behind this epic myth story that we've heard all this time about like, what does it mean to be a half god? What are the obligations that you have to heal or help people versus hurt them when you have the power to?
Yeah.
So lots of parallels, I think, with what they've done very successfully, I think, with House of the Dragon.
I was going to say,
take this story that we thought we knew from Fire and Blood, or that we had, the Spark Notes bullet points of, and add so much more humanity and intrigue to why everybody's doing what they do, which is also very tragic. We know how it ends, but we get to enjoy the arrival to that point in this show in a different way.
This is a good opportunity for me to shout out a podcast I listen to called Ancient History Fangirl. And there's basically been a lot of scholarship around rethinking a lot of those old myths from a feminine perspective, and that's something they do very well.
Awesome.
And on the downside, I don't know if you heard this, Madeline Miller has like really bad long COVID for like 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really
that.
messing her up. Like she just like daily, she struggles to find the effort to write, energy to write.
Oh,
yeah.
that
That's
sucks.
rough.
Because
She's
she was
young.
working
She's a pretty
on
young person. Yeah, like
she's
she's
working
written
on
2 books.
Persephone.
Yeah.
Next, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's exactly right.
It's been a
that
struggle.
sucks. She's a phenomenal writer.
Yeah. She said she's
Both
had
of
it for
those
2
books
years.
have been
That's rough.
like a comfort audio book to me. I just put them on when I want to listen to something that will make me feel good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I definitely recommend those books, folks, and I recommend Ancient History Fangirl, and I recommend Cast of Kings. Definitely, y'all. If you don't already listen to Cast of Kings, then this is your window of opportunity.
In your prison of not listening.
In your prison of content, open a window. Me.
Carve a window. Oh, yeah. No one has agency in this world of overwhelming content. You cannot choose what content. You will listen to the content we tell you to listen to. Yes.
True.
There are bigger problems to have.
Indeed.
Well,
thank you so much for inviting me on, and this was so nice, and it's been too long since we've had chats about this universe.
I know. Hopefully we'll get to hang out at a con or something one of these days.
Yeah,
right.
I would love that. Ice and Fire Con, just timing was awful with me this year again, so I'm really trying to go, but
maybe
COVID
next
keeps
time.
going.
Yeah. We'll it'll happen one of these days. Yes.
Worth mentioning, I guess, if we're talking about conventions and events, I've mentioned it before, but Aziz will be at the New York Neil Gaiman, George R. R. Martin event. And so if you're going to be in New York for that thing at the Symphony Space, then make sure you hit Aziz up.
Yeah, do so. And we'll have a little bit of a report on that at some point afterwards. We'll see what gets said.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And make sure, it's not written here, but we have to make sure we announce our finale.
Yes, we are doing a Monday, which is Halloween. We're doing a Monday wrap-up stream. We're inviting people. We're in the process of figuring out who can get. We're going to get a big group.
But yeah, that'll be on Halloween night, Monday, October 31st.
Yeah. And then we will be reconsidering when to do our live streams. If you are a patron or in one of our groups, you can weigh in, but we're going to be posting a poll on Patreon to decide where to keep our times, whether to keep them, what to do basically going forward with our live stream times, whether to change them or what to do basically now that show season is moving past. So if you want to participate in that, be welcome. Join us on one of those spots and participate as you see fit. Thanks again to Kim for her excellent takes and presence in this episode. It was awesome. We had so much fun with you. A lot of great insight. Also, check her out on Insider. Of course, we mentioned Cast of Kings, but she also does double duty there. Really more than double duty, but so it's you wear a lot of hats, shall we say. Hats that are much more fashionable than Kristen Cole's hat.
That's a low bar. But thank you.
Yeah. On the subject of that hat, isn't it so funny that Kristen was like, I need to be undercover. Let me cover my hair. Like, he doesn't have silver Targaryen. There's no real reason for him to wear a hat other than he's like, this is how commoners dress. Anyways.
Yeah, it's just too funny. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsor, NordVPN. If you were getting throttled or missing your behind-the-scenes content or not able to sign up for certain things, NordVPN's got your solution for cheap.
NordVPN.com/thrones.
Yes.
Important to know the URL.
That's right. Thanks as well to Michael Klarfeld for the maps you see behind us and our usual video intro. And thanks to Bran Winslow for our Fire and Blood House of the Dragon themed intro that you see in these live streams.
Was in the chat today talking about how he's going to make it bigger and better than ever for season 2, including more for the painted table and other big ideas that he has. So our intro outro will be different for season 2.
Yes, indeed. We look forward to that. Ours changes, they change theirs, we change ours.
Yeah.
Yes, we got to get along with the program, right? And if you are a participant or a supporter, we do appreciate that. We will keep the episodes coming, and you know what to do. We'll see you for spoiler-free review on Monday, and content TBA after that. Until then, Valar re-read us, and Valar re-watch us.
Bye.